That's how I feel about dominoes. You know, you spend your time trying to get it, and then all of a sudden you just make one little shuffle, and then it's just like, and it's like life. Dominoes just fall, I guess. You know.
Right. So, speaking of just falling, wait till you hear what we have this evening.
Okay, I'm excited. Is everybody at home excited? No.
Anybody?
Anybody
excited?
No. Well, hopefully we'll have a couple viewers tonight.
Welcome to Powerbomb Weekly, the show where no one's quite sure what they're doing, more than half is made up, and sometimes they need a woman to get the job done right. This week, the guys will say goodbye to the bad guy, ponder the possibilities of Cody at Wrestlemania. Mike will explain to Joey why he thinks Jeff Hardy should sue the WWE, and Joey will review an epic tale of victory, loss, and heartache. As always, the guys discuss this week's shenanigans in the world of wrestling entertainment. Now, here are your hosts, Mike and Joey.
Whoa, wait a minute. That's not how you do an intro. Ladies and gentlemen, this is how you do an intro. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this week's edition of Powerbomb Weekly. Brought to you by Kitsap Great Escape, the only escape room in Kitsap County. Check out the live in-person escape rooms, or find out how you can rent a portable escape room for your private event or birthday party. Check them out. Find out more. KitsapGreatEscape.com. This week, the guys will say goodbye to the bad guy. Ponder the possibility of Cody at WrestleMania, and Mike will explain to Joey why he thinks Jeff Hardy should sue the WWE, and Joey will review a book that he read. All this, and as always, the guys discuss the week in wrestling shenanigans. But first, let me introduce to you your hosts. What more can be said about our first host? He excels in everything he does. And rumor has it, when Bret Hart came up with the nickname, the Excellence of Execution, he was talking about this man. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Michael Burdett. And his co-host. Let's be honest. The most spectacular thing about tonight's show is not that Joey's going to review a book that he read. It's that he actually read a book. Good job, champ. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Joey Marcello. Again, fans, tonight's show brought to you by Kitsap Great Escape. Check them out online, kitsapgreatescape.com. And don't forget, the Sunday before WrestleMania, the guys will appear on the Outlaw Radio Network for a full WrestleMania preview. And now, ladies and gentlemen, on with tonight's show.
Nice.
So, Kevin got me the intro literally at 4:10. I had already completed Carrie's intro because I had her recorded at 3:30.
Nice.
Because I needed one.
Yeah.
And so I was like, dude, I already did the intro. It's done. He's like, no, you need to do mine.
That's right, Kevin. We will not allow you to be replaced. We will not, even if it is with the lovely female patriarch of the Marcello family.
What I think is
we cannot replace the voice of the voiceless Kevin Chambers.
What I find interesting is Carrie says she doesn't listen to our show. But clearly she does, because she had described it to a T.
No, she knows us. She knows that nothing is pre-prepared, and over half of the show is just made up and stuff. I literally write the show in my head while I'm like driving or taking a shower.
On the way here?
Yes, basically yes. Yeah.
I do a little more prep work than that.
Well, what's been trouble? I've been having trouble getting to sleep. Like we've talked about, I work the late shift, so I get off very early in the morning. So I try and go to bed early enough to where I can get up in the midday and still have time with the fam and everything, But I've been having trouble just shutting down for some reason, so I've been staying up a little bit later, and I realize that it will drive you completely insane if you try and apply logic to things while you're trying to go to sleep.
Yes.
It does not work at all. So I have had a sleepless week, largely due to the World Wrestling Entertainment Federation Company, Inc.net.gov. Whatever.
I have a feeling that he may curse on this show.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And here's our obligatory slide that does no good. All right.
So we've got some good memes.
So again, the Sheik. The Sheik has never pulled a punch.
So I don't know if it's Sheiky Baby or if it's the people who run Sheiky Baby's Twitter, but they are on fire the last few weeks.
Tom Brady, make up fucking mind. You're not Terry Funk.
It's great. You can hear it. Everything they type, you can hear it in Sheik's voice.
Yes. And have you seen the movie Titanic?
No, I'm one of the 4 people on the planet who's never seen the movie.
Oh no,
Titanic.
we talked about that. You did because you almost got kicked out of the theater for it.
Yes, I've seen it.
Yes. When Veer finally comes to Raw. It's been 84 years.
You know, the funny thing is we were having a discussion. I actually talked to our good friend, Mr. Brian Resner, a little bit on one of the pages for the wrestling news, and he was like, because they were talking about everybody waiting for WrestleMania and everybody waits for the post-show Raw, which hasn't been great the last few years, and he's like, I'm waiting for Veer, and I was like, hey, Veer will probably show up on the post-Raw, honestly. And he's like, hey, I was making a joke. And then, somebody else jumped in, too, and I was like... This is why I don't internet. This is why I don't interact with people on the internet or make comments, because you try and talk to somebody about something, and then 50 people have to jump in and just be like, "Hey, fuck you, man!
What is this man going to accomplish?"
He will be. Well, the thing is
he Omos's final real opponent?
No. I mean, the question is do we think we're going to get this, or are we going to get the guy who was sitting in the chair at IKEA? I mean, realistically, I don't know.
Smarty.
I don't know what we're going to get when Veer comes to Raw. I mean, at this point, I think he has to just come out with a fucking machete and cut Randy Orton's head off.
Sword fight with Drew.
Maybe. Well, Drew's on SmackDown. Oh, I guess it doesn't matter because everybody's on every show right now.
Yeah,
but yeah, I'm thinking he will show up post-Mania Raw. That's the only debut for him that makes sense that will make him pop. And, I mean...
Yeah, he's popping.
I don't know.
They're just trying to make... I mean, they are trying to build fandom for this guy.
What I don't understand for him is why they are not referencing that he's the fucking $1 million arm guy. Did you know that?
No.
So the Disney movie $1 Million Arm, about the people who go to India to try and sign the next big pro baseball talent, and they hire the 2 guys who throw the hardest fucking fastball that they can find, but they know absolutely nothing about American baseball.
Right.
That's him!
In real life?
Yes.
Or in the movie?
No, that is him in real life. He is the $1 Million Arm guy.
Wow.
Him and the other guy. He's the guy who got signed to, what was it, the Padres or the Pirates or something like that?
Huh.
That's him. He has a fucking Disney movie about him.
Interesting.
Yes.
I saw this and thought of you. If a bear has you stuck in a tree, crouch your Macho Man Randy Savage aim flying elbow. Better to die a man's death.
Yeah. I like it.
Then also your top ramen tribal chief.
Ramen Reigns. That's
He's
pretty
even
good.
got the ramen noodles.
I like the hair. Yeah, that's pretty good. Yeah.
Looks like he's got the shrimp flavor. What's your favorite flavor ramen?
Probably the shrimp, but shrimp than beef, I would say.
Mine was pork, and you can never find it anymore. Pork and chicken.
Yeah, I'd say shrimp than beef, honestly. I used to really dig the chicken one, but then I lost the flavor for it. It's like when you drink I don't
Bud
know.
Light?
No, I mean it's like when you drink tequila or something like that, and you get super sick and puke all night, and then you can never drink that brand of tequila again.
Jaeger. That's Jaeger for me.
Yeah, people have the Jaeger problem is good, I mean, but that's for some reason the chicken ramen for me. It's I had a bad experience where I don't know, maybe I did throw it up with I was sick or something, and ever since then I'm just ugh, chicken.
All right, so and as you pointed out, someone watches our show because
we're going to talk about this come story time in a minute, because I have got, as I said, early morning trying to go to sleep logic thoughts about this, but I just laughed that Brian Alvarez of Figure 4 is also saying the same thing now that we were saying about how dumb this storyline is. Like,
apparently your wife likes spicy beef.
spicy beef is pretty good.
Or
yes.
was she
Hi,
referring
hon.
to Roman Reigns as the Raymond?
She loves Roman.
So maybe he is spicy
She
beef.
loves Roman. Roman showed up on TV and she's like, "Hey, hot stuff."
Mm.
Yes.
All right.
Oh, already, man.
Yeah, we're gonna get into the deep woods. So here's the thing I will say about Scott Oliver Hall, as he is known as. I was never a huge fan of Scott Hall.
Really?
No. Now remember his match with Shawn Michaels, the very first ever ladder match, was probably one of the best ladder matches I've ever seen.
Which is not the very first ever WWF ladder match.
I know.
The WWF likes to rewrite history because Shawn Michaels and Bret Hart had a taped but non-televised ladder match several months before that.
Right. I understand.
Because the concept of the ladder match being brought to the WWF was Bret Hart's idea because they ran those ladder matches in Calgary with his dad's promotion.
But when they did it, WrestleMania X,
yes.
I believe.
11? Was it 11?
I thought it was 10. I thought it was WrestleMania X. We'll Google it.
Yeah.
Okay. That was like the one and only match that I really was like, wow, this man has something. But if you remember my history, I was a WCW person at the time. When I was able to watch wrestling because of the Navy, I mostly watched the WCW stuff. So I didn't see Razor Ramon very often. And then by the time he got to the NWO, I mean, him and Scott Hall really didn't have matches.
You mean Scott Hall and Kevin Nash?
Kevin Nash.
Not Scott Hall and Scott Hall.
Scott Hall and Kevin Nash. They didn't really have matches so much as they just beat people up, which was the NWO. And he was apparently knee-deep in his addiction issues. So he was not having those early matches that made him so amazing. And then, I mean, like, I'm remembering him take a cattle prod to Goldberg. Like, those are the matches I remember from him, other than the ladder match. So, I'm not poo-pooing on anything the man did, but I don't have the history and knowledge of what he was in his prime to really say anything that I know is good.
Okay.
So,
so Scott Hall, it's kind of crazy that a week ago we were sitting in this chair and we were talking about the fact that he was in the ICU, in a coma, in a medically induced coma, and, we didn't know what was going to happen to him. And basically one day later, we find out via Kevin Nash's Instagram that they're just waiting on the family to show up at that point so they can discontinue life support.
Actually, that happened that was tweeted out during our show.
So during our show, so not even 24 hours after we were talking about it, that this decision had already been made for it. Did you know that he survived like 6 hours with no life support before he passed?
No.
Which is insane if you really think about that. You're always used to the movies thing. If they discontinue life support and like 2 seconds later, everything's over. Yeah. But I guess no. Scott Hall hung on for a few more hours after that. There's a lot to recap in this, and I'll try and keep some of it short. I really liked Scott. I got to meet Scott twice. I got to meet him once as Razor Ramon, and then I got to meet him when they did the WCW pay-per-view in, Wheeling, West Virginia, where they had one of the sold outs or something like that. Mm-hmm. I got to see Scott then, and then every time after that, I had a chance to see Scott, including TNA, including other things that he did. He was always canceled. Largely, as we've come out to learn, due to his alcoholism and, problems that he had. Any other time he was on the card, he was always canceled at that point. Any WCW show, anything else that he did. Unfortunately, I think most people for the modern times will really only remember his very lackluster run when he came back with the WWE for the NWO angle against Rock. And he had the matches against Austin because Austin did not want to work with Hogan as a return for, hey, fuck you for not putting me over, years ago kind of deal. So Scott...
Remember you said that.
Yeah, so Scott, who was friends with Steve, they'd had their program, and they did their WrestleMania match. He actually had about 7 matches after that WrestleMania match. Most people just remember that as his last match there. But I think for the most part, that's what people will remember. Scott was an amazing talent, in my opinion. Very under the radar, very much in the style of Roddy Piper. He never won a major championship in any major promotion. I think his only like world heavyweight championships are like in smaller, like minor promotions and things like that. But multi-time tag team champion, obviously intercontinental champion. He won a lot of belts through that. But Scott was always more of like Roddy, like personality, like a guy you just put on the mic and let him talk. Probably, if we talk about legacy, he's not going to go down in the greatest of all times,
Right.
truthfully. But he will probably go down much with Kevin Nash, Hulk Hogan, and them, one of the most influential people that have happened in the business because, regardless of how people want to undermine it, Scott was the catalyst when he left the WWF at the time to go to WCW for the larger paycheck, that he basically started how these contracts and scaling and stuff like that and these payments and that people have now, how that happened. Scott was the one who got Kevin to come along with him. Scott was able to make the connections with other people. Scott was also the guy who largely helped direct some of the success of people in WCW for what we have. He's the guy who helped push Diamond Dallas Page as, hey, this guy's over. We need to do something with him, you know? Well, Diamond Dallas Page is 45 years old. What's he going to do? Be like, but he's done so much. Put him with us. We'll work with him. Put him part of the NWO angle. We'll work with him. Scott was the guy, I believe, they've made the comment, how do you get a guy over who just showed up in WCW? Well, give him a t-shirt. Give him an NWO t-shirt. We'll get him over, and they would try to. His in-ring work is something that's not largely talked about, and I think that's due to the poor in-ring work that he had that we get to see after with TNA and the WWF. But Scott was a big guy that I think really is not highlighted as well, but you can probably kind of see in this style of picture right here, Scott was a big guy, very, very strong guy. He picked a lot of big people up.
No, I was going to say,
it was insane to see.
I was going to say his finisher, the Razor's Edge,
Yeah.
was impressive at the time because there was nothing really like it at the time, and he was getting the people up,
Yeah.
over his shoulder, which obviously takes some strength.
Yeah.
So I will say that his finisher was super cool when it was new, and back when I had and when on my N64 when I had the WCW Nitro game, I was always raised. That was my finisher, was the Razor's Edge on everything.
Yeah, I mean, the Razor's Edge was cool, man. And, when you look at him and you look at his progression, because this is a guy who started, was he part of UWF and then went to AWA? You'll have to forgive me, I apologize, but when he went to AWA and was teaming with Kurt Hennig and doing stuff like that, I mean, he was just huge. Unfortunately, as time goes on, obviously we have to talk about the bad side of the bad guy. Alcohol addiction, drug addiction, pill addiction, things like that really brought Scott down. And as I even said, there were shows that he was supposed to be at that I was going to that he got canceled from his appearance because of, problems. Scott definitely had a lot of issues, especially throughout his entire career, through his entire life. If you ever get a chance, I don't know if you saw, did you see the E360 or whatever it is, the documentary that they did about Scott probably about 8-10 years ago or so?
No.
So they were detailing through Scott. You saw the Ric Flair one and a couple of the other ones that they did, right?
Yeah.
The precursor to the dark side. But if you guys ever get a chance to see it, go see Scott's version of it, because it's really shines him in an honest light, where it talks about his addictions with pills, with Shawn Michaels and everything like that. And Scott, in my opinion, and they brought it up in the show, definitely suffered from PTSD. Very early in his life at a bar, a gentleman attacked him and drew a gun on Scott, and Scott wrestled the gun away from the guy and killed the man. He says in the interview, he's like, I got the gun away from him, and I realized in that moment it was me or him, so I fucking shot him and killed him. So Scott really, and this is way, way back in early 80s, probably somewhere along that line, I would imagine. So we're not really used to the phrases, PTSD or anything like that. We have shell shock from the military, but, post-traumatic is not really discussed, and how you deal with things like that of,
crazy. That is not something I knew.
Doing something like that. And that probably still, he said it at the time and haunted him to that day. But the narrative for him has been, and I hope this is the narrative that the WWE is going with, and what they're going to present is that, he had a lot of issues very publicly. You can go online and you can see him falling down in wrestling matches because he's so intoxicated. Obviously, there was the stuff that happened with Just Incredible several years ago where he was just so intoxicated he couldn't make it to the ring without the help of a wheelchair and other wrestlers literally carrying him into the ring.
Which at that point, why do you even bother?
The reason I will comment that just for a second, talk about it. The promoter basically said that he paid Scott, and Scott showed up so inebriated that he was demanding that he be paid, even though he had already been paid. And the promoter was just like, fuck it, send him out there. Be like, if this is how he wants to treat people in the back and me and everybody in the back, let everybody see what kind of person he is.
Okay. I can see that then. I was like,
very much like when you let Jake the Snake, who's so inebriated on the mic that he pulls his dick out in front of the children, telling everybody if you want to see the real Python,
Right.
You just, sometimes you get to a point where you're just like, if this is how he's going to behave, let everybody see it so they don't come after
me,
the promotion and me.
Why did you pull him?
Yeah, there you go.
Yes.
This is why I did it, The narrative is probably going to be that Scott turned his life around thanks to the help of Diamond Dallas Page. And
unless you're Dave Meltzer, apparently.
Well, I was going to get there. Apparently, Scott was still having some trouble. Sean Waltman has come out and said that the pandemic had done him no favors because of the isolation. In fact, one of the reports that we're getting out, I don't know how confirmed it is that Scott had actually fallen and broken his hip several days before he was found. And the reason he was found is because they realized they had not talked to him, and they sent Dallas Page over to his house to see how he was. And Dallas Page is actually the one who found him and called the emergency medical people to come help him. Great talent, though. He was only what, like 62, 64, something like that. He wasn't very old.
Right.
I mean, he was old, but he wasn't very old at that point. I think it was just a career that will be defined by three things, and I'm okay with that. Is he will
66.
be 66. So he
76.
No, he wasn't 76.
5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Joey also reads and does math.
Oh yeah, no, 66.
Okay. So, I mean, he will be remembered for,
Someone do the math.
The Click and the NWO. He will be remembered for the addictions, and he will be remembered as a guy who largely, for the most part, whether you want to go with this new information that's coming out or not, somebody who was able to overcome. And I think that's why his acceptance speech, as you can see here, has really become a good tagline that's been going around the, the wrestling world, as it were,
Mm-hmm.
Hard work pays off, dreams come true, bad times don't last, but a bad guy does. That was Scott Hall,
64. You were right.
My God, it took him like 8 minutes to do that.
I had to use a calculator.
That's
hey,
fine.
To everyone our age who was told by their third grade teacher, you're not always going to have a calculator in your pocket. Yeah, I do.
I hate to digress from that, but I got in an argument with one of the people from the colleges where they were like, no, you have to do all the math by paper. Be like, so I can have paper and a pencil in the wilderness, but I can't have my fucking phone and calculator? Be like, hold on a minute. Let me math out where I'm at. Let me pull out my fucking sketchbook and my pen and let me math out this equation that's going to get me out of the wilderness, but I don't have my phone on me? No. Okay, man. Anyway. Scott Hall,
Yeah, I just figured you wanted to talk to him as much as you've been putting on Facebook about it.
Yeah, so. I guess for that, hey, yo, who's ready for a survey?
Oh, I forgot about the survey thing.
Yeah. Will Scott Hall go down as one of the greatest of all time? or will he be remembered as a joke?
I guess it depends on who you talk to.
Win one for the good guys. Too sweet.
Ah!
Speaking of too sweet.
Yeah. So, I thought this was interesting. Finn Balor, Finn Balor posted out, they stopped manufacturing the cloth that I'm cut from. And Switchblade, that's because they found a better material. Now, if I think about two wrestlers that are not even 10 years apart in time frame, that parallel each other more than, these two parallel so well.
Absolutely.
And it's interesting.
And we'll never see a match until the WWE fires Finn. Which we'll talk about here in just a second. And
you have been posting a lot of Finn Balor stuff, so I kind of thought that felt good with all of this. Yeah. So, if you think about the Bullet Club, as it were, so it went from Finn Balor to AJ Styles to, we're not going to talk about Cody, Kenny Omega, and now it's in the hands of Jay White.
Yeah.
So that's pretty much how the progression. There may have been one or two people in there, but those are the main ones. So you've basically got the Alpha and now the Omega, if you will, the beginning and the end, because at this point either the Bullet Club dies or with him, or it's gone too long. It's getting into NWO territory.
Well, I'll tell you why. Thanks, hon. I'll tell you why the Bullet Club won't die. Because they sell their shirts in Hot Topic.
I agree. But, so Finn Balor and Switchblade, who do you think would win in a match? In New Japan, where you just don't know. I mean, who would they have go over?
Man. I don't know. I would say... I would book it that Finn would go over. And, but I would also probably form it out with a little bit longer of a program of Finn goes over, dissension among the ranks of the Bullet Club. Hey, one of the founding fathers is back, and then, then they have to have like a little skerfluffle, and then Jay finally beats him, back to back or something like that, and he takes dominance over the Bullet Club, and Finn is sent to the by and by or something. That might be how I would probably book something like that, but.
In a fight? In a legit fight?
Are we talking... Why? I don't like to do legit fight. That's like, who would win, Hulk or Superman? Be like, it doesn't matter.
Okay, fine.
If we're talking about a legit fight, probably neither one of them would win. It probably would look like shit.
Okay, fine. I will never ask you that question again.
I don't know why. I've never been a fan of that question.
All right, fine.
All
right, whatever. So, say what you will.
Who would you pick in a fight to win?
In a legit fight?
In a legit fight. I mean...
I think Jay White would whoop the shit out of Finn Balor.
Nah, the thing with that is Finn's Irish. It's in his blood.
Jay White is Kiwi.
It's in his blood. I mean, that's the problem. Well, yeah, I guess so. But I'm going to go... I would have to pick Finn, I guess. I think Finn, that little scrappy bastard, could do it.
You're right. Probably neither one of them know how to really fight. You're right.
Well, no. I mean, if you're a wrestler, you know how to fight because you know how to put people in very advantageous positions and in holds and things that can definitely... Like, I'm going to fuck who you are. A hammerlock is still a hammerlock, okay?
Right.
You put somebody in a hammerlock, you can really control where they're going, okay?
Mm-hmm.
You put somebody in a chin lock is still a chin lock, you know what I mean?
Right.
So, guys know how to do stuff. It's just not expected like it was, like the Bill Watts era where they had to be the toughest guys on the clock and Bill Watts would send them down to the bars to fight people to legitimize wrestling and things like that. Like, we don't have that anymore. It's not even the culture, like, of the world.
I understand.
The culture of the world is not even about things like that anymore. So, seeing something like who would win in a fight between the two if they shot each other in the ring, most of the wrestling shoots that we've actually seen where people shoot in the ring don't look very interesting to begin with. Because neither one of them, usually in a shoot fight, neither one knows the other one's going to start shooting until it happens. whether the promotion has told the guy to shoot on a guy, or whether the guy has gone into business for himself, or maybe a guy threw a potato too hard and the other guy threw one back and now they're actually fighting. Most of the wrestling shoot fights that we've seen that are documented aren't that spectacular anyway.
That's right. I forgot all about Brawl for All. So
yeah, well, I mean, yeah, Brawl for All was terrible. Look at it. Guys were throwing wild punches and falling on their faces because they hadn't been in combat sports for 10 years, you know? You watch a UFC fight and you know you're going to get a fight because these guys are training to fight. Whether you get a stand-up striking fight or you get a wrestling ground match, or they have the mismatch of the striker versus the wrestler and the wrestler just basically like holds the guy down for 5.5 minutes and wins. Like you're getting a trained fight for that, you know?
Okay.
You know, I mean, can you really, I know we're way off the topic here, but can you really think of like a major shoot fight that you've seen that just really played out in the ring properly?
Oh yeah, I can think of one real good one.
What?
Nia and Charlotte.
There you go. there you go. You had two people who pie-faced each other, grabbed each other's hair, and then when Charlotte realized that she was getting smacked around by Nia, took her down into front face lock and held her on the ground. And Nia realized that if she hauled off and actually hit this bitch in the face, she was going to like probably lose her job, which happened anyway, or be sued out of all of her money that she had. So nothing happened.
Right.
Nothing happened. Andre the Giant and what's his name in Japan. Nothing happened.
Yeah.
The only major shoot, what about, what was the guy, Antonio Inoki versus the Great Antonio, where he just kicked him in the head like 30 times. Like, that's usually what happens.
Lex Luger and...
Lex Luger, I can't even say Lex Luger and Brody was actually a shoot, because Brody just stopped selling.
Right.
He just got mad and sat down, and Luger was like, I don't know what to do, so he just left the cage. Like...
All right. So,
anyway, moving on.
Yes, moving on. All right. In Michael's words, I don't see how Hardy isn't suing them.
Okay, why do I think Jeff Hardy should be suing the WWE when the WWE is trying to talk about suing Jeff Hardy? Well, apparently, I would assume that because the WWE is also fielding lawsuits from MLW and the federal fucking government for their stock scam that they're still involved in at this point, I imagine they're just going to let the Hardy Boy thing drop.
Oh, yeah.
And not pursue this at all. The reason for that came about is because Jeff Hardy, while he was still under his 90-day complete clause, was asked by a reporter what his plans were, and Hardy said, I'm going to AEW. Not, I have signed with AEW. Very careful on the wording there if you're going to talk about legal terms. He said, I'm going to AEW. It's done. So the WWE was looking at, hey, did Tony Khan violate his non-compete clause by talking to Hardy about negotiations before his 90-day no-compete clause was up, which would be a breach of contract on their part, which would allow them to sue. The problem that I see for this is that how is Jeff Hardy not suing them for wrongful termination?
Please explain.
So, over the last little bit, definitely we've seen things come out. We've talked about it, but to recap the story in a smaller amount, Jeff Hardy was in the ring.
Yes.
Jeff Hardy said fuck it and got out of the ring and left through the crowd and said fuck it.
I'm done.
And management in the back said, Jeff, we think you're fucked up and we want you to piss. And Hardy said, okay. And they said, Jeff, we think you're fucked up and we want you to go to rehab. And Jeff said, no, I'm not. I'm good. And they said, well, you're going to go to rehab or we're going to fire you. And Jeff said, well, I want the results of my piss test. And they said, well, you're going to go to rehab or we're going to fire you. And Jeff said, okay, fire me, which they did. And then the results of Jeff Hardy's piss test comes back that he pissed clean and was not on any type of substances or had any type of addiction problems at this point. At least the P says so, okay? So Jeff says, all right, I'm done. And the WWE goes, well, shit, we fucked up. Hey, Jeff, by the way, would you like to be in the Hall of Fame this year? We'd like to hire you back. And Jeff said no. So he left. And he wrote out his non-compete clause. How a non-compete clause is still applicable to the fact after you have fired somebody is insane to me. CM Punk fought this in court and won.
So
I don't see how these non-compete clauses are still working against these guys when they're being fired
Yeah.
And they have legitimacy to turn back around and sue the WWE for wrongful termination. Especially since, as I understand it, in court, CM Punk proved that their non-compete clause is bullshit because they're independent contractors.
Right. Well, and he's also got that one Republican senator that's trying to help with all this.
Well, don't forget Yang Gang's coming for their ass, too.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, Yang isn't a Republican. I think he's an independent.
Okay. So, now 2 questions I have about this. One, I would say that... one statement, one question. I would say that, obviously, there's no way that... I mean, all Jeff would have to say is, like, I'm still allowed to talk to my brother. My brother has told me that I could come work with him.
No. Legally, he could not say anything like that. Legally, they would not be allowed to do that because that would be an open form negotiation.
But no, because Matt doesn't write contracts.
It doesn't matter. Could you imagine if that is still coercion, I believe is the word for it, maybe something like that? Because it's loose, but if I call you and I say, hey, Joey, I'm still employed by these people over here, that is a competing area for you, but my contract with them is coming up. What could I make over there? That's a problem. That's a conflict of interest.
Okay, I can see that.
Like, I believe, and I'm not 100% accurate on this, so please forgive me. There is a waiting time for my transition. There's a waiting time for my transition from the yard to the, like, if I were to go from one to Lockheed's the name that pops into my mind. I believe there is a transition problem of things that I can and cannot discuss. Like if I worked on a project or a system or something, I can't discuss that project or system with the other company after a certain amount of time period has passed because that's a conflict of interest. Or maybe it's the other way around if you come from one to the other one. I can't remember, but essentially, yes, it would be a conflict of interest to have that discussion.
So, then my next question to you is, could Toni Storm get sued for, her OnlyFans page now? Because, her non-compete clause, she's now...
I would imagine at this point, no. She could not be sued for her OnlyFans page because she launched it after her non-compete ended.
Okay.
But
if she were to, start it up like right before, like 2 days after she was fired.
I don't know if that would actually be
because it's still a form of entertainment.
It is, but she's not working at a competing company at that point.
Right.
So I don't know. I mean, I can imagine that, like, legally speaking, I cannot imagine any type of contract that says you can't make money for 90 days in any form at all just because you work with us. I imagine a non-compete like that, and I'm sure it's out there for public domain, would be something along the lines of you cannot go to work for a direct competitor. Under the same style of performance. The thing that I have with that too.
So Toni Storm couldn't go to Defy.
Toni Storm could not go to Defy until her non-compete was up. Again, though, they're independent contractors. I don't see how their non-compete clauses hold water at all when we've proven they don't.
Right. Exactly.
And I mean, realistically, Hardy should be suing for wrongful termination because they fired his ass for suspicion of drug use.
Don't you think he just wants to put it behind him?
I imagine, but I don't know. I don't know the legitimacy of this being true. If they were actually pursuing this, or if this was just the internet wrestling lawyers making up articles.
I didn't have a slide for this, but did you read the one where what Vince used as part of his defense against MLW? He said
that AEW is on the air
and beat him. He goes, "How can you call me a juggernaut? AEW is beating me in the ratings sometimes."
Yeah, well, they addressed the part of monopoly in their lawsuit. They did not address the other parts.
Right.
For example, the blocking of their streaming service, and they did not discuss the talent, signed footage, stolen, things like that for it. They only addressed the monopoly issue for that. Because anytime that you're a corporation and the word monopoly gets used, ask Bill Gates, your butthole puckers.
Oh, yeah.
Very quickly when you hear the words lawsuit and monopoly together.
There has to be competition. You can't buy it all.
Yeah, you can't have it all. So I think that was a big part of that.
So Vince is like, no, there's AEW over here. They're real.
Which forced them to acknowledge that AEW is a legitimate competitor to it, which would also force them in a lawsuit like this is that they would have to prove that, Hardy going to AEW or having conversations with AEW about the possibility of coming in while he's under a non-compete clause, that they would have to prove in court, not just by hearsay of Jeff Hardy saying, I'm going to AEW.
Now, hearing that, do you think that's why he let Mickie James, the TNA champion, be part of Royal Rumble?
No, I don't think that's why.
Okay.
I think they owed Mickie a solid for mailing her belongings in a fucking trash bag.
All right.
That's what I think happened.
So, do you know what book I'm reviewing? Oh, I haven't written anything.
Joey Book Review. This is how this is written on my flow sheet, by the way. Joey Book Review.
Yes. Do you know what book I'm reviewing?
No.
You don't. Do you listen to me when I talk to you?
Not really.
Oh, okay. So last week I told you
Just ask everybody at the house. I do remember you saying you were reading Black Hat.
So I finished.
Okay.
Okay, so full disclosure, I did not read the book. I listened to the audiobook. So when I read a book, I'm listening to the audiobook.
Does that count?
Yes.
Can we have a discussion about that? Does that count? Because I read all of the Harry Potter books. I listened to the last 4 in audiobook form because I really enjoyed the man's voice. However, though, I had been told by other people that that is not reading the book.
Yeah, in today's day and age, you've absolutely read the book. Do you know what the books are about? Can you tell the difference between the book and the movie by parts that weren't in there?
Absolutely.
There you go. And Carrie loves the way he reads. She's listened to it probably 100 times. She loves his voice. Anyway, not only did I read the book, it was read by Jim Ross himself. So this book was pretty amazing, actually. And there were a lot of things discussed that I wanted to talk about. It's funny that Carrie said a heartache, and she had no idea what book I was talking about either. And this book did have some heartache. This did have some interesting action. And man, here's some takeaways I will have from this book. First, I recommend it.
Okay.
Absolutely recommend it. So I learned some things I learned about Jim Ross. Jim Ross is a fucking curmudgeon. Jim Ross is a miserable, grumpy man. Self-admitted.
Yeah, I mean, you couldn't tell that from...
Well, he's always like that. The voice and his speaking and the way he announces and just over-exaggerate. In real life, he can be very miserable.
Yes.
I did not know that.
I listened to his podcast, Girlin' with JR. He is a miserable twat.
So I not listened to his thing. So anyway, I want to discuss this.
Okay.
JR versus Vincent Kennedy McMahon.
Okay.
JR was never told what was going to happen to him next in the ring. He did not know this was going to happen. He did not. He was he hated the fact that him and Michael Cole had to wrestle.
This was appalling to watch, and I watched it live.
I did too. He legitimately thought he was going in the ring for an apology. He had no idea what was about to happen. He knew that Vincent had been week after week, and Jan, his wife, would be like, "Why? Why is he doing this to you? Why do you keep letting it happen? Stand up for yourself." And he's like, "It's just part of the business, it pays the bills." And he thought it was all over when he went into this. So he went in there, and it was like, and when the Undertaker came out and was like, "This man has done these things for you," and he was legitimately sitting there going, "Okay, I'm not going to have to do this. I'm not going to have to do this." And then when Undertaker turned around and goes, "So, are you thinking you're better than me?" Like JR, like the fear in his eyes in that segment was real.
Yeah.
He was like, "Oh crap, this is really going to happen." And then they took his hat off and everything like that. But Vince, and the thing was, he guesses or he surmises that Vince just wanted to see how far he could push him. before he would just break. Because he'd always bring him back whenever and he knew that if he needed him, he'd bring him back. He talked about in the book how he lost the job to John Laurinaitis, who he taught how to do the job, and that
who proceeded to fucking destroy OVW and their developmental class.
Right, which he said he wasn't happy about. He talked about how he was the one who made sure people got paid. He was in charge of payroll, and then John Laurinaitis was like, hey, I don't want to screw this up. Can you keep doing it even though you've lost the title? And he's like, absolutely. Because in his mind, it was about getting the people paid. And then, like, 4 weeks later, Vince is like, are you still doing payroll? He's like, well, I'm helping him out. He goes, don't lie to me. Because I just asked him a couple questions about pay, and he had no clue what I'm talking about. Are you still doing payroll? He's like, well, I want to make sure everybody gets paid, and we don't, sorry. Nothing bad happened. He goes, oh, the talent will be paid. Do not do pay anymore. If I hear you're doing payroll again, I will fire you. So he had to let go of it. He talked about how him and Dusty Rhodes built NXT and how it started with Triple H. And this book was written before the abortion that is 2.0. So he would nothing but glowing things to say about how NXT was doing it right.
Yeah.
And the book ends as soon as he went to AEW. Like he talked about how he started working with Josh Barnett for New Japan, and how Kevin Kelly and the audience got him fired from the New Japan job.
Yeah.
Because he showed up to do the California show, and Kevin Kelly showed up at the same time, and Kevin Kelly and Don Callis like, what are you guys doing here? And they go, we were told to be here. What are you doing here? We are the voice of American TV. And then the producers for New Japan were like, we want Barnett, and because the network pays them, you guys do the online show version of it for the website. So, and apparently the fans hated Jim Ross so much they got him fired from it. Well, when you come from the way Mauro Ranallo was doing it to the way Jim Ross was doing it, Jim Ross was stumbling. Jim Ross didn't have the intimate knowledge of some of the wrestlers' names, and he would ask some silly questions like, why are they allowed to do this? What's the my God, can Red Shoes keep control of this? You know, because the thing that I probably liked and learned the most is he made it a point to never know the finish. He wanted everything to be organic. So Michael Cole would have the bit by bit, line by line, know the finish before the match. He wanted the audience to hear the sound of his voice, actually surprised or happy if the finish was the way he thought it should be, or disappointed when it wasn't.
Yeah.
Thought that was pretty cool. And of course he talked about Jan and her death, and it was heartbreaking because hearing him talk about losing his wife and how lost he was. And the coolest story was they brought him back for WrestleMania for Shawn Michaels and Undertaker. And he was supposed to call the match that retired Shawn Michaels. And he got pulled day of. Vince is like, no, we're going another direction. We're going another direction. And he's like, the worst things a wrestler in the WWE can hear is we're going another direction. Because that means you've been fired and you're the dang. It's worse than creative has nothing for you. And so he got pulled for the match. So he was sitting in a skybox watching WrestleMania that he thought he was supposed to be doing the main event of with his wife. So after the show, The Undertaker got 3 buses, put him in a U, got a bonfire, got some beer, and it was Stone Cold, Shawn Michaels, Undertaker, and him had a private after-party barbecue bonfire in the parking lot of WrestleMania that was for him. And then 2 years later, or 5 years later, because the book just keeps going, Vince did, in fact, give him an appreciation award that was like one of the last things that they ever did together before he left for AEW. But it was a really good book. It was, I'm going to have to go back and do Slobberknocker to find out about his early days with Dusty Rhodes and stuff like that. But I'm going to start doing wrestling autobiographies.
Oh, okay.
I'm currently working on one of Jericho's.
So you've been inspired by this by doing this.
Yeah.
You know, I love the thing with JR, and maybe we'll talk a little bit about this, but I love the voice of JR, and I think he probably is one of the greatest announcers of all time, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it's interesting that you talk about some of the personal things about him, about being grumpy. He's just a whore for money, isn't he? Like, just a horrible whore for money. And there's a certain amount of pride after the fact. I feel that I've always had this issue with Jim Ross, especially in the last few years of, you know, I criticize Russo justifiably, I believe,
right,
of not taking responsibility for the things that he did, that he always has
Russo.
He always has an out,
right,
you know, as I've talked about. He always has a reason of somebody else screwed this up, and my vision was great. I know I'm sorry for everybody out there, but I'm comparing it, like I said last week, apples to oranges on it.
Right.
I feel the same mentality to Jim Ross of Ross seems to always have a reason out of why this or this or this kind of took place. And it's always not like, be like, just admit it. Be like, why did you stick your face in Vince McMahon's ass? Well, I didn't know it was going to happen, and they didn't explain it to me like this, or blah, blah, blah. You're on live television. You could look at him and go, Mark, do not put my head in this man's ass. I'm walking out of this building right now. If you touch me, I'm going to punch you in the fucking face for real, Mark. Kurt, get out of the way. No, he had his face put in Vince's ass and then was mad about it after the fact.
Right, so
This, same thing. I watched it live. This was horrible. If they'd have come to him and said, JR, we want you to get in the ring and wrestle Michael Cole. Michael Cole's going to make you look like a fucking fool. I would have said, you know what, guys? I've said it before and I'll say it again. I'm out.
Yeah, both of them hated everything.
And
because it lasted so long.
And that's why the last time I think that they fired him, where they were just like, Laurinaitis came out and was like, JR, you're fired. And JR's just like, fuck it. And just picks up his stuff and walks out. And it's like, whatever, dude.
Yeah, they talk about the book.
Yeah.
Well, he said the reason he kept with it because it's his love for it and the love of the guys and the love.
It's his love of having a paycheck, in my opinion.
I will tell you that there's a nugget of truth to what you just said, because did you know that when he was between run 4 and 7 of WWE, because he does go in and out, or when he was on his Legends contract for a while, he was courted. He was actually flown down to the Carter farm in Texas.
Oh yeah, I remember that they were going to bring JR in for them. Yeah,
and do you know why he did not get the job? This is 2008, 2009. Do you know?
I'm assuming. I mean, I would hope he looked at that and went, "God, this is a mess." But why did he not get the job?
He said, "My God, this is a mess. If you want me to fix this, I need to have full hire and fire. There's a lot of dead weight that's leaching off of you that I need to get rid of before I can make your product good."
Yeah. Well, everybody said the same thing. Paul Heyman said the same thing when they were going to bring him in. Pritchard has said the same thing about TNA for a while. It's that nobody was ever given the ultimatum. They just brought people in and wrote them paychecks.
Because Carter felt the loyalty to the people that she hired.
Fuck her. Fuck
Dixie
Carter.
Was the dad.
Was it the dad? But Dixie was whatever.
Well, so basically it was kind of like, it's very similar to Tony Khan. Dixie was given money by her daddy to have a wrestling company.
Yeah.
So daddy did not make a lot of decisions. He just kept writing checks.
Yeah.
And he was like, well, but he'd get to know the people and meet the people. And he's like, but I'm thinking 2008, 2009, I'm thinking the people he wanted to fire were I don't know, Bully Ray, Hulk Hogan, Vince Russo.
Well, he probably didn't have the right to fire them. But essentially the problem that...
I mean, who was the people in 2000, 2009 that would have been the problems?
I mean, I don't think it's talent, necessarily. Granted, they did have some talent issues that they needed to get rid of at that point. But I would say for them, the issue... This will be a whole different topic.
Oh, yeah, we have to do the TNA show one of these days.
The whole issue with TNA was that TNA was mismanaged from the jump because you had the issue of Panda Energy and Tennessee being involved, but then you had the network with Spike being involved, and then you had the other aspects of the wrestler personalities and stuff being involved for it. So probably what JR's talking about is you need to get rid of these sections of
Oh, no.
things.
He specifically said talent that are only there for a paycheck, that are doing no good and sucking the company dry.
Well, he's probably talking about Kevin Nash. Realistically, he's talking about Kevin Nash.
Okay. I didn't know. I didn't have any reference. I was like, if anybody would know who that probably was.
He's probably talking about Big Kev. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But it was a good book. I recommend it.
All right, yeah. I'll have to check out Under the Black Hat, the Jim Ross story as spoken by Jim Ross.
And I'm currently doing a Chris Jericho book.
Which one? He has 3.
I know. It's. I think the second one. It's the one where he talks about Batista and blood. It's the 4, the best at everything I do, and now what do I do?
Oh, okay, yeah. I think I've only read Jericho's first book, Around the World in Spandex.
The problem is it's written by read by somebody else. So I hear the Chris Jericho lingo,
Yeah.
and it's not Chris Jericho's voice or even close to it. So
Interesting that they didn't
and
do
it's
that.
and it's great because every way he's reading, he's like, and then this happened at the Fast Lane PPV, and you dig? That's like how he reads it.
Okay, so he talks much like the voice of my WWE 2K character. By the way, there is only one voice.
Yes, I will tell you during our final thoughts. We can talk a little bit about WWE 2K because I'm a week into it.
Oh, nice, okay.
All right, so
Are we starting with this, or are we starting with another? Or are we starting with the shows?
this is the last thing before we go to the shows.
How is this? I don't give a fuck anymore.
I know. I don't either.
I don't care.
I don't either.
I don't care.
That was kind of the point of this.
I
Do we
don't care.
Do we care?
I really don't care at this point, and it's not.
Why?
The thing with this is that I'm trying to think of the best way to say this.
Okay, well, let me ask you a question
Yeah.
while you're thinking of it.
Okay.
And maybe it'll spark the answer. Everything that you read will tell you that this is a done deal. It's
Yeah.
kind of been a done detail. But Vince doesn't want people to know, and he wants it to be a surprise.
Uh-huh. Is it a surprise that everybody knows?
No, but I mean, why? At what point should this be a surprise? Should this be a surprise?
Is it a surprise? Is it?
Well, it'll be more of a surprise if he doesn't show up at this point.
Well, yeah, they've kind of booked themselves into a hole at this point. I mean, I don't know if this goes to show the genius of Cody Rhodes for the fact of Cody knew, I would imagine, if Cody has even a lick of Dusty in him, then he had to realize that if I just hold back a little bit and let everybody talk, the old man is going to give me whatever I want because he knows if he doesn't produce me in Dallas, everybody's just going to be like,
Like
you know?
3 years ago. 3 years ago, we knew that the Hardy Boys contract was up the day of WrestleMania
Yeah.
in Ring of Honor. Many people knew that. The internet knew that.
Yeah.
Nobody actually expected them to show up
But
on
the fact
stage
that the Hardys walked out is still probably one of the loudest WrestleMania pops you'll ever hear.
because they had wrestled 3 hours earlier in a Ring of Honor ring.
Yeah.
If he shows up, they're going to be like, "Oh,
Cody's here.
Or
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. It's such a weird thing of having Cody come out legitimizes AEW as a competitor because they're going, look at what we got, right?
does he come out in Stardust gear?
No. No, he
Does he-
can't come out. He cannot come out. If he comes out in Stardust gear, the people are going to burn the fucking arena down. I mean, realistically, he's probably going to come out in that.
Or does he?
He
just,
probably wants to do the American Nightmare honor Dusty Rhodes thing that he wanted to do several years ago when they fired him.
or does he? Does he just wait till the Raw after and get a better? Or does he show up to
Again.
NXT Stand and Deliver? Or does he just?
Again, who fucking cares? Why is everybody... I mean, I can't even say... Like, it's Cody.
It's
the thing with it is that for how long did we talk about a lot of the issues that we had with AEW was Cody fucking Rhodes.
And what are they going to do with him?
What are they going to do? I mean, well, that's the thing. That's what it is. It's the same thing with Austin that we'll talk about here in a minute. But it's like, the what could it look like? That's more important than the guy. This isn't Brock. I mean, I know it's weird to say, but if AEW could get 3 people, Brock, I can't say Roman because I just don't think it would work. But if they got Brock, John Cena, or Randy Orton, those 3 people, right? Everybody would lose their shit and be like, "Oh my God, they got John Cena."
Oh, when everybody thought The Rock was going to show up there, or it was John Cena or The Rock, one of them.
Whatever. Yeah. But if they go, "Oh my God, they got The Rock on AEW," that would be insane for them. The WWE getting Cody Rhodes does not make them go, "Ooh." It's just people going to be like, "Holy shit, Cody showed up." And then what's he do? Is the only thing Cody can do is come out and murder Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns in the middle of the ring and hold up both titles and walk out. That's the only... A match with Seth Rollins, potentially, we'll get there, does nothing. It does nothing for either of them.
It's the only thing that anybody's talking about when it comes to WrestleMania.
Well, that's another problem with WrestleMania we're going to talk about here in a second.
All right, so let's talk about wrestling. All right, so for those that watch the show or watch the show back, usually I have little bullet points about the different shows. We had some computer issues. I had some computer issues. So we're going to just discuss bullet points, and I have notes on my phone. So
okay, so
we're going to go to first start with NXT.
No, we're not.
Okay.
First, we're going to start with Raw. And the reason we're going to start with Raw is this.
Oh, no, we should. You're right.
Yeah. No, the reason we're going to start with Raw is this. Is Raw sets the tone for everything else that is set up throughout the entire week, not because it's the first show of the week, but because the storyline that is the only thing that matters on Raw is what we'll talk about that sets that tone for the rest of the week, okay? Why do I say this? Raw fucking sucked. Raw had no point whatsoever at all to be on other than to exist as a recap show for everything else that is currently happening in the WWE Universe leading to the road of WrestleMania. I saw more vignettes for SmackDown than I think I actually saw wrestling matches. I can confirm this by having a minute and 54, 324 matches and stuff on here. These matches were all built around a singleized story of... Seth Rollins still can't get on the fucking WrestleMania card for some reason. Why is that the most important thing that's coming out of Raw that we're going to talk about? I'm going to do this quick. Damian Priest defeated Finn Balor in 7:29. Omos defeated Commander Aziz in a minute and 54. Thanks for playing Commander Aziz.
Hold on.
Liv Morgan defeated Queen Zelina in 2:50. Oh my God, she didn't need help. Oh wait, she did. Dominic and Ray defeated Cedric and Shelton. Thanks for playing Hurt Business. Just go away. Bianca Belair defeated Doudrop. Doudrop will never, ever, ever win another match in her career. Riddle defeated Montez Ford. Why? Because the Street Profits almost turned heel for 5 seconds and then didn't. Kevin Owens defeated Seth Rollins via pinfall in 14:46. This is the only storyline that matters that made no sense on here that anybody's talking about that actually got the highest rated views of the show because people wanted to figure out what was going to happen. Why did this happen? Well, Seth Rollins can't get on the show. Why? Because he's a fucking idiot and can't do what everybody else has done and just come out and say, I'm on the WrestleMania show. What are you doing? Who cares? So he tells Ken Owens he has a wonderful idea of how he's going to get on the show. How is he going to get on the show? Well, he's just going to steal Ken Owens' idea. He's just going to, instead of Kevin getting to have a sit-down discussion with Austin, he's just going to take Austin and do a show himself. Sorry, KO. Nope, KO's not happy with that. And management in the back feels that this is a great thing to have happen, so they're going to have a match at the end of the night to figure out who's going to interview Steve Austin. Why? Because Steve Austin is a fucking superstar and these guys aren't. They had a pretty damn good match.
They had a good match.
Seth Rollins lost. Seth Rollins doesn't have an opponent for WrestleMania. Whatever will Seth Rollins do? Well, let's talk about the rest of the week and why this makes no sense, because guess what happened on literally every show for the rest of the week, including this one? People who don't have matches on the WrestleMania card just got on the WrestleMania card. Do you have anything to say about Raw that's positive?
I have some notes I'd like to get through.
Joey's going to note some things for Raw. Are they positive or negatives?
A couple.
Okay.
So you know, as you covered, I want to know why Finn Balor had to lose to Priest in a non-title rematch.
Because it was non-title, and they're going to have a match at WrestleMania.
And why was Theory there? Oh, to do so that Finn Balor can move on to Theory when he loses. Are we just predicting what's going to happen?
Well, no.
Is Austin Theory going to be the next?
Austin Theory will be the next champion.
I kind of thought that Aziz and Omos should have been a WrestleMania match, not a squash down on Raw.
Would
The way
you
it was
have paid
built-
$100 to watch a minute and 54 of Commander Aziz getting
but
squashed?
you have the two biggest beasts who steamroll from everybody. When I'm thinking like Vince McMahon, shouldn't this been a WrestleMania match? I'm not saying it should have been.
No, but we saw the best that these guys can do, and it lasted a minute and 54.
All right.
Dear God, do you not remember like Elegante and shit? Omos is fucking horrid, and everybody on the internet who has called me a bunch of different names, I'm on the internet right now on my own show, and I'll say this, fuck Omos and fuck you for getting behind him. I don't give a shit about the people who are like, oh, well, he's green and he's new and he's improving. He doesn't need to be on television if he doesn't know what he's doing.
Okay. Please stop with Logan Paul, please.
Oh, I'm not even fucking talking.
Okay.
The only thing that I will comment real quick on that is the fact that Logan Paul, apparently a guy who has a YouTube show who speaks, forgot how to speak.
Yeah.
Because when they would ask him questions, he would just like stammer and stare off into space and be like, well, yeah. Like he couldn't talk. You hired this motherfucker to talk, and he can't talk. What happened, Logan Paul? Were you fucking drunk?
Why is the light got to be blue for Edge? Edge apparently is now MJF because he tried to be like MJF because he said he's better than everyone.
Oh, yes. He stood on the mountain of omnipotence. Omnipotence.
And apparently Beth tweeted out, "This isn't you. Stop."
Oh, God.
Does
he come home and talk to the kiddos like that, Beth? His two beautiful daughters that Seth Rollins possibly could have done things with?
I don't remember who said it, but whoever said Aquaman cosplayer reigns, I thought was hilarious. I think it was Edge. But the Aquaman...
Yeah, no, that was good, because that was a good throwback to the internet sign where somebody says...
Aquaman cosplayer reigns was hilarious.
So, I want to give context for this, because that actually was funny. It's at a house show, and Roman Reigns is apparently hilarious at house shows, because he breaks character and he doesn't give a shit, right? But he's still super cocky, and somebody in the crowd just screams at Roman Reigns, "I loved you in Aquaman," and he turns around and goes, "If I was in Aquaman, it would have made more money." Hilarious.
And then I wrote, "Why are the Street Profits heel now?"
They weren't. They were. Well, remember, I asked weeks ago, I was like, are they flipping them, or at least Montez heel, because he's doing all this heel shit? Remember when he had the rose, and he had the different beard and everything? I was like, oh man, they're making Montez and them heels. This will be fucking great. And then they didn't do that. Why? Because Vince changes his mind because he's fucking senile. See Big E's broken fucking neck in the New Day right now.
So, moving on to NXT, apparently.
Fuck this show, too. NXT is by far the weirdest dichotomy of shows where it is literally... I know we've said this.
I watched it this morning.
This is the most bipolar fucking show I've ever seen in my life, because 50% of the show was great, and the other 50% of this erased all of the good that the good 50% had to begin with.
Okay, so... let me take the reins on this one.
No, fuck you. NXT was terrible, and I watched it.
You just said 50% of it was good.
Well, I get to cover the 50% of bad then, because I need to somehow turn this shit pie into a shining diamond, okay?
Okay. All right, where do you want to start?
Start with the show.
We started with Ms. TV.
Yes, we started. By the way, somehow, is it the lighting? I have to ask, is it the lighting? Because this is the first time in months, I will say, months, where I was like, holy shit, The Miz is really good right now.
I know, right?
Like, I was like, Miz is doing great at this.
Right?
Why is he here? He's explaining it, okay? The people are kind of behind him because holy shit, The Miz is showed up.
What was the only time they booed him?
When he said for them to boo him, basically.
No, when he said Logan Paul.
Oh, yeah, when he said Logan Paul. Oh, yes. I guess what I'm saying is that he knew he needed to get some boo heat, so he threw that in there. But I was surprised. The Miz was engaging. He was entertaining. He was still doing all of the Miz stuff. Maybe it's the camera. Maybe it's the camera angle that they shoot him from on Raw. But apparently the NXT guys know how to get the camera line perfect for him. Where I was like, shit, the Miz is doing really good tonight for some reason. And then Dolph Ziggler came out. And they proceeded to talk to each other. And that's when this fell into a fucking hole.
I feel bad for Bobby. Bobby is not even a good hype guy. Hey, you should know that when you're a triple threat, there's no rules.
And I like to follow the rules. I mean, yes, poor Bobby Roode. Poor Bobby
TNA champion Bobby Roode.
TNA doesn't exist for them. And the sad thing is that Bobby Roode could have been their world champion.
Mike likes the Miz.
I know, right? I was shocked too, but I'm not saying I like the Miz. What I'm saying is that the Miz was performing his role perfectly fine this week on a different show. When he was on the previous show for Raw, he was annoying as shit.
And then we got to watch black and white and color footage from the security camera of Ron Breakker coming and going.
Because, now, this is something I'm going to talk about for a second, okay?
Yep, no.
Whoever directed NXT this week, I'm probably looking at Bruce Pritchard. You are not a Hollywood fucking film producer, dude, okay? No.
It was so bipolar.
This was so bad. All of the backstage footage was just so bad. Okay. So, essentially, Braun Breaker won't be here tonight because he got exorcised from the building. Why? Because Braun Breaker, your legit heavyweight badass who showed up in a souped-up fucking Dodge Charger, was told by two random security guys that he had to leave, and he chose to. Why? Because everybody beats up security and gets away with it, except for Braun Breaker.
Right.
Because Brock Lesnar can murder the security guards, and he gets invited back the next week, and no one has penalties or fines or anything levied against them, but Braun Breaker being told, hey man, you gotta go, and Braun decides to dip. So they made Braun look like a giant pussy.
Now, are we going to talk about the number of Raw and SmackDown people that are now invading NXT? Like,
we'll talk about that loosely, but go ahead and ask your thing.
Is it because Vince is desperately trying to get people to watch the show again, or is he just spreading around? Because here's the thing.
No, I will tell you why this is a thing.
Okay.
And this has confirmed it for me. And this was a question that I had, and this was a question that I would have had if I'd ever gotten a job at WWE. I would have asked this question immediately. Okay. I would have said, what is the perception of NXT and what is its purpose in your company?
Okay.
Is it Hunter's little side project where he cultivates indie talent for you to later destroy on the main roster and fire 3 months later? Or is it part of an integrated program of your entire show? Vince has answered that question. NXT is no longer the black and gold brand.
No.
It is just part of the fucking show now.
Okay.
NXT is just part of the show.
Now, with that being said,
and they need to get the ratings up because AEW's stomping the shit out of them. And how do they decide to do that? With the Miz and the Mysterios.
Now,
because no one of
Ziggler.
Because I was about to get there. Because no one of any large-scale credibility is going to show up on NXT. The biggest person that they had show up on NXT was Edge a year ago.
Right.
And it made sense why he was there.
Right.
Why we did Miz TV, other than the fact that apparently Dolph Ziggler asked him to be there to introduce him, was the only reason the Miz was there. Why were the Mysterios walking around backstage and taking a shit in Legado del Fantasma's masks? I don't know.
All right.
They were just there. Because regardless of what we say, the Mysterios are still over somehow. I hate Dominic's hair. You know what I realized? Dominic Mysterio looks like my created character of myself. Minus the mullet. Because I actually have all of my hair back here, dude.
Okay. So, speaking of Santos Escobar, he wrestled Cameron Grimes. I'm starting to see a real big pattern, and I don't like it. Cameron Grimes is amazing at the false finishes, but then he never...
Cameron Grimes can't win a match.
No, and...
But we had to talk about that later. Because Cameron Grimes loses to Santos Escobar. The match was honestly not...
Wasn't horrible.
It wasn't horrible, but the issue with the match is the same issue that I've had for a while. I mean, I really feel like these were two guys with two conflicting styles who have worked before in the past, but got thrown together and didn't really know that they were wrestling each other that night, is what it looked like. And, Santos has this issue of when he's not on offense, he doesn't give a shit. And we've talked about this before. Yeah. But when he was not on offense, he did not care about this match at all.
And Cameron Grimes was putting it all on.
Cameron Grimes was doing his best for it, but there was a lot of stutter stop in some of these parts of this. Yeah.
We had the premiere of A-Kid.
A-Kid, who had his name as A-Kid. Why? Because they were able to put splashy superhero vignettes beside of where he is a superstar. A whatever. And he fought Kushida. This went 4:59. It should have gone longer. This was a great fucking match. I hate the fact that Kushida is in the everybody else position of he just will never win again.
Right. If Kushida was going to lose, it should have gone...
I would not have booked A-Kid against Kushida.
No, I agree. But Kushida was apparently... The setup was Kushida was like, hey, welcome to... I'll be more than welcome to help to meet you in the ring. I'll be the ambassador, if you will. And
well, yeah, he's going to be the measuring stick, which just goes to prove that Kushida is now in the X-Pac territory of he's the guy who decides if a guy can go or not.
So when Dad came home from church today, he was like, what you did? Oh, you're watching 2.0? I go, yeah, but this should be the least 2.0 match on the entire, because it's two really good people. And he goes, and then Dad goes, is jacket time there? I'm like, shit. He goes, yep, that's what I thought. I'll be upstairs.
Yeah, jack-off time was there. But at least it wasn't jack-off time wrestling. The other guy, Jiro, was not in the match. It was just Kushida doing Kushida shit, which looked great.
So again, to be a face in the WWE, you should murder people, swing swords at people, and now steal their property.
Yes.
We spent far too much time stealing titles, hiding titles, and...
Okay. So, we're going to talk about this in full because this took place throughout the entirety of the show, and I hated every fucking second of it, okay? Now, I'm going to set this up...
Even the Undertaker end?
I'm going to set this up with a bit of a discussion that maybe you can talk about, okay? What we're talking about is Cora Jade. If you guys remember from last week, Cora Jade and Raquel Gonzalez were eliminated from the Dusty Women's Cup because Raquel was hitting the leg with a fucking Triceratops bone from one of the Toxic Attraction bitches, okay?
And she's out for 6 to 8 weeks.
She's out, okay?
6 to 8 weeks.
Did she actually get hurt?
I don't think so.
Like, I haven't seen anything that she actually got hurt. But she still wrestled the rest of the fucking match, so I can't imagine she's that hurt.
Maybe she has a concussion.
I don't know. Anyway, I mean, because I don't know enough, I'm just going to talk about my assumptions of what happened in this, all right? So, she gets nailed, she's out. Cora Jade decides to help get revenge on behalf of her fallen partner. And how did she do this? Well, she stole Toxic Attraction's titles, because apparently Toxic Attraction are fucking dumb and just leave their titles anywhere in the back, locker area, right? Even though we've seen them have their own private locker area and they have their own Chippendales hangout roost up in the top, okay? Now, Cora Jade has the titles, and she can't get one of the titles off of the fucking steel platform that it's setting on because it actually got put up on there, okay?
With Velcro.
With Velcro. Now, Cora Jade dips. I have to talk about this. I have to talk about this because it bleeds into everything else.
Yep.
Toxic Attraction comes in from the side door in the locker room while they're filming Dakota Kai and Wendy Chu watching a recap of matches, okay?
The Sith Lord Ninja.
Dakota Kai is not fucking crazy this week.
Ish.
Why is Dakota Kai not crazy this week? We've booked her as being a crazy person. She wasn't. She was having coherent thoughts and conversations with Wendy Chu, who was obsessed with her orange soda drink.
No, but Dakota Kai went like this twice.
Oh, fuck off, okay? No, it does not work that way. She's either fucking crazy or she's not. Whoever decided that because Lexi is not around that they need to have a crazy person walk around apparently needs to tell Dakota Kai how to act crazy. Just get Lexi over there. She was doing fine with it, okay? So, Dakota Kai is not crazy. More importantly, she's not, and I understand this from a logic standpoint, Toxic Attraction comes in and goes, hey, have you seen Cora Jade? And they go, no. By the way, we didn't need your help last week. And why is Dakota Kai, who tried to murder Raquel Gonzalez with a shovel, upset the Toxic Attraction hit her in the leg with a dinosaur bone?
Because she's crazy.
No! That's not being crazy. That's being inconsistent.
Oh.
And not knowing what you're doing that week.
Do you think WWE knows the difference between crazy and inconsistent?
I don't think so. I think they don't know the difference between production and reality.
Okay, sorry.
So then the girls have their little tiff, and Mandy Rose, who is apparently as dumb as she is beautiful, decides to tell the other Toxic Attraction girls, hey, let's split up because she's never seen television before in her fucking life.
Works for Scooby-Doo every time.
It works for Scooby-Doo. Oh my god. She goes, hey, guess what? You guys, go find Cora Jade, and whoever finds her first, leave some for the rest of us, right? So what happens? I will tell you what I thought was going to happen as we go through this, okay? But, of course, naturally, I'm like,
I didn't see the first one. I missed the first one.
Okay, so naturally, you can imagine what's going to happen. What happens? The Toxic Attraction girls split up. Well, naturally, they're all going to befall some type of cinematic, murder-looking, fucking entrapment thing like Saul. Which is what happens. Because the first bitch, whose name that I refuse to commit to memory, who's not, the one who's not Gigi Dolan.
Yeah, fair.
Yeah, that's the only way I can remember her. She has no fucking personality at all. The one who's not Gigi sees her title belt hanging from like a little rafter area inside of one of those cage storage lockers that you have in the back, right? And she like walks in and she's like looking around. And she, like, touches the title and nothing happens, right? And she's like, oh, okay, good. And she pulls the title down. And Cora Jade, who apparently is fucking MacGyver, has MacGyvered a trap with a trip line that goes all the way up around that causes the metal door to slam shut while she's inside of this locker cage area. And Cora Jade runs up with the lock and locks the gate on her, right? And she's like, 1 down, 2 to go. And I need everyone at home to understand this.
I
okay?
saw the other two.
It was not this. It was not static. There was a camera angle from behind. There was a camera angle from the side. There was a camera angle from the top-down view. There was a camera angle from inside of the pantry that she got locked inside of while all of this was happening that they cut to. So she not only trapped the other Toxic Attraction girl, she also trapped one of the cameramen in there too.
We're going to talk about the problem with this on the third one. Because the second one was stopped from was done with a static camera pretty much.
No, it was not.
It was done from one view.
No, it was not. Now, the second one. Gigi's in the back, okay? And the title belt is in the back parking lot. And it has the title belt setting. See this right here? See this belt? It's setting right like that on a trash can.
Dumpster.
Sorry, dumpster. I apologize. The big the big 2-door fucking dumpsters that you see that, you know, they need the forklifts and stuff to dump, right?
Foreshadowing.
And she goes, and she can't reach it because she's dumb. And she doesn't do the first thing that every person, I would imagine, who doesn't want to crawl into a dumpster would probably look around for a second and go, man, is there anything around here that I can get my title belt down with? No. So she stands up on the rung of the dumpster and can clearly reach the title belt from where she's at. but she has to get inside of the dumpster. Why? Because the trashy bitch has to get inside of the trash can, okay? And then Cora Jade proceeds to drive up with a forklift. A lot of forklifts in the budget this week for the WWE.
Yes, there was.
And she drives up and proceeds to lower the forklift down, which closes the two big plastic doors on top of Gigi Dolan, and then she sticks the forks down on top, which then allowed Gigi to be trapped inside. Keep in mind, the forks were like here, and the doors were like this. So how anyone could not push the door up the extra 3 feet and get out, I do not know, but I wasn't there. I imagine if I was trapped in a blackout dumpster randomly, I might have a few moments of going, shit, am I dying at this point? There were 3 camera angles because there was the shot of the front, then there was the shot of the side, and then there was the shot of the forklifts coming down from one direction.
Okay.
There was, and then Cora Jade gets out. Okay. Because apparently Cora Jade has to have vignettes. Now, we're skipping ahead. This took place towards the end of the show.
This closed the show.
This closed the show. Cora Jade walks out with Mandy Rose's NXT title. And she's like, well, I got 2. Couldn't get the last one. Now pause. I'm going to pause this right here and give you my internal thoughts. And I said, well, I know how this is going to play out. I was like, all right. So, she couldn't get Mandy, and I thought it would have happened earlier in the show, but I'm like, alright, Mandy's going to get cornered by Raquel and Cora Jade, because production likes to see Mandy Rose get fucked every week by the babyfaces for some reason, see the Kaylee Ray spaghetti incident, right? I was like, so that's what's going to happen, is they're going to corner Mandy Rose, probably in the ring or something, and then they're going to have their, like, beat-down strip thing, whatever, and then everybody's going to have a good time and go home, right? Okay, cool.
Who doesn't like a good forklift?
Who doesn't like a good forklift? I know, right? So I was like, all right. But then she goes out to the parking lot, and I'm like, okay, well, Mandy Rose is probably going to have something to go in the parking lot, or she's going to get in a car with Mandy or something, and then Raquel's going to come out. This is what I'm thinking. Everything's building to the Raquel comeback, right?
Right.
So now we're going to jump a little bit back into this, where Cora Jade has the title belt, and she's like, longingly looking at it, and like, and I'm thinking the idea is that she's like, well, I stole this title belt, but maybe I can earn this title belt, and that's what I really should have done instead of stealing the title belt, but we don't really get any of that conflicting. She just stops and like stares at the belt for 30 seconds, and then it's like, well, anyway, and just gets in the car.
Oh,
now
wait, no. In her hand was some random can of spray paint that had duct tape all over it.
She was going to spray paint the title belt. I forgot.
Oh, I thought it was the car. Oh, was it the title belt?
I think she was going to spray paint the title belt. Okay, anyway. She chucks the spray can aside. And she gets into her car. And this is where I want to pause. And I said, they're going to do a behind-the-seat shoulder shot.
Of The Undertaker.
And Mandy Rose... I was like, Mandy Rose is going to be in the back seat of this fucking car, isn't she? And she's going to show up in the rearview mirror.
Like The Undertaker.
Which is what happened.
No, before... Pause.
Which goes to prove...
Pause.
No.
Pause.
I want to ask this question.
How many camera angles were there?
Several! Which is my question of... Does Cora Jade get in her car and not see the 4 fucking cameramen shooting this inside of her car?
There was a camera literally in the passenger seat.
In the passenger seat to see her throw the title belt, and then a camera from up above the passenger seat to show the title belt setting in the car, and then there's the cameraman who's in the back of the car with Mandy Rose shooting Mandy Rose showing up. Look, ladies...
There was no suspension of disbelief on this.
Not just ladies, but people in general. When, you know, there's a reason that they tell you to check the back seats of your car when you get home late at night or you're getting off work and you're going somewhere, because there might be your crazy serial killer stalker in the back seat of your car ready to pounce on you.
Oh, wait, hold on.
This is why you check the back seats of your car.
Hold on.
This is the only logic I can apply to this is Cora Jade's dumb.
No, you forgot one thing, though. You're
What?
missing a big part of this. This isn't Cora Jade's car. It's Mandy Rose's car.
So she didn't expect Mandy Rose to be in her own car?
That she left unlocked in Florida.
Oh, Lord.
Orlando, Florida.
So then...
This beautiful, brand new...
Cora Jade gets her ass handed to her.
So how
by
Cora
Mandy
Jade
Rose.
think she was going to drive this car away? She doesn't have a car key.
I don't know if she knows how to drive. So anyway, Cora Jade gets her ass handed to her by Mandy Rose. Mandy Rose proceeds to spray paint, I believe, a T and an A, toxic attraction, on her back. I don't know. It just looked like a big splooge across her whole back, okay? And they leave. The only thing I will say about this is that at least the parking lot brawl involving Mandy Rose and Cora Jade was 1,000 times more believable than Ronda Rousey versus Charlotte Flair. Now, I have to ask this question, Joseph.
Mm-hmm.
Why the fuck did we need another female parking lot brawl on a show that just had one 3 days previously?
Because we got to get ready for Stand and Deliver.
By the way, let's talk about that for a second.
Are we going to talk
People don't have matches on Stand and Deliver. They don't have cards on Stand and Deliver. So what has happened? People are just saying, I'm going to have a match on Stand and Deliver.
Now,
why can't Seth Rollins do this?
Now, can I ask you a question? I don't know if you've really done the research on this, or if you really... I don't know if you've put 2 and 2 together yet.
Okay.
So, WrestleMania weekend.
Okay.
Friday night, we're getting what? SmackDown and the Hall of Fame ceremony.
Yes. Saturday is
Stand
and Deliver and WrestleMania.
WrestleMania. Stand and Deliver starts at noon. WrestleMania starts at 4.
Oh, yeah. I saw when they finally started advertising this the other day. I was like, what? I was like, you're having 2 pay-per-views in the same day?
And are they in the same building?
No. That's right, because the other one's across the street.
And then Sunday we're having...
Okay.
So... And not to mention, what else is happening that weekend in the same area? You've got the Multiverse of Madness and all the other wrestling. This is why they canceled WWE Access this year. It wasn't because... Oh, they're saying it's because they weren't ready for that many fans interacting or the venues.
Oh, Lord.
So, we're, as a WWE fan, and I think this is why we're cross-branding it so much, we're supposed to turn on our Peacock at 11 a.m. Pacific.
Mm-hmm.
I hope Pacific. Oh my God, if it's noon Eastern, that's like 8 a.m. here. We're supposed to basically watch Peacock all day Saturday for 9 hours of WWE wrestling.
Do you realize how tired people are going to be?
That's what I'm getting at. All right.
Oh, my Lord.
So, Saray doesn't have the chance to change.
Oh, motherfucker. Thank you. Thank you. I know we are going so long on NXT, and I apologize to everyone at home, but NXT had such...
Well, it's okay. Raw had nothing to offer anyway.
Yeah, Raw fucking sucked.
SmackDown.
Yeah, we're going to go over SmackDown in just a second, but...
So, Saray,
they literally said... They fucking said it on the commentary team. Saray did not have time to transform! Am I lying?
Nope.
If I'm lying, I'm flying and I'm going right into the ground and dying, which is not happening right now because I don't have fucking feathers growing out of my back. The commentary team said Saray did not have time to transform.
So they're not...
They're not even making it a thing. It's legit. She's Sailor fucking Moon and she has magical powers.
She grabbed her plastic.
She grabbed her fucking dead grandmother's amulet and did her whole...
You heard the music like it was about to happen.
Like she was gonna... And she rubbed the thing for good fucking luck. And then Tiffany Stratton just waylays her, beats the fuck out of her, and Saray is magic and stupid because they get in the ring and unlike any other fucking match, and this is why they're stupid, the ref goes, "Are you good to start the match?" And Saray goes, yeah, ring the bell. Which one, Why is the ref not disqualifying the match when you guys on a pay-per-view in a foreign country had the Viking Raiders get fucked by the Usos and everybody said they couldn't continue? You have spots on Raw where people get beat up and they can't continue, but Saray, the untransformable transformed Asian, says, ring the bell, I'm good to go. The ref says cool, and then what do? She fucking loses!
52 seconds.
The babyface fighting, transforming Japanese warrior of the sun is stupid and loses in 50 seconds to Tiffany fucking Stratton via a backflip, crossbody, tit thrust finisher.
Which makes
She
sense.
beat her with her tits.
But, okay, aside from the finisher, this made perfect sense.
No, it made
listen,
no
listen,
sense.
listen.
Oh, by the way, why did Saray lose to Tiffany Stratton? Because she tried to kick her in the face with that drop kick into the ropes that she had, and Tiffany Stratton got out of the way, so Saray ate shit to the outside. So she's dumb on 4 fronts. She didn't think to look behind her because Tiffany Stratton has been beating her up for weeks behind. She didn't think to transform earlier in the day.
This is so good.
She then decided that I have gotten my ass handed to me in the back, but go ahead and ring the bell. I'm good to fight. And then she decides to do a drop kick and still loses.
It makes sense.
No.
Yes, it does.
Make it make sense to me.
Okay.
Why is
All right.
Saray a fucking fool?
This is why it makes sense.
Okay.
Now, I have to choose my superhero carefully. I don't know much about anime, so I can't use anime references. So I'm going to use the only superhero I can that will make sense. Because I can't say the difference between Clark Kent and Superman because he takes off his glasses. I can't say the difference between Bruce Wayne and Batman because Bruce Wayne is still kicks ass. And I thought about using the Underdog, but I'm not sure if you know who the Underdog is. So
Underdog?
Okay.
Why would I not know who Underdog
No, maybe
is?
they don't know who Underdog is. All right, so
Is our audience that young?
Bruce Banner and the Hulk. Until Bruce Banner transforms into the Hulk, he is puny Banner, scientist nerd, wimp. So Saray, the schoolgirl, is going to get her ass beat by Tiffany Stratton because Tiffany Stratton, I'm not going to say is a premier athlete.
Okay, so I need you to go back in the weigh machine of TNA and see Joe Park and Abyss storyline. Because that's where we're at.
Yes, I know.
And no,
Yes!
it doesn't work that way because I'll tell you why, okay?
I've seen Joe Abyss
in
Paul.
In a physical matchup where the Hulk is fighting Abomination. I understand that.
More like Shazam than the Hulk.
Maybe more Shazam than the Hulk because she has to magic herself into it.
Does Sailor Moon?
But here's the thing:
Does Sailor
Bruce
Moon?
Banner is still a fucking super scientist. He still does things.
Is Sailor Moon in her non-Sailor Moon outfit, or is when she's just a Japanese schoolgirl? Is she tough like Sailor Moon, or
I think she's busy giving Tuxedo Mask a boner. I don't,
Sean, you tell me.
But this is the thing.
So it makes sense that she lost.
Saray, here's the problem with that, though.
This is not the thing I thought we'd debate about.
Saray already debuted as Saray, the Warrior of the Sun, before she got sent away to come into a schoolgirl, which means...
You forgot about all that.
No, I didn't.
Yes, it's the
Here's the
WWE
thing, too. And much like I give Dakota Kai shit, she still tried to wrestle exactly the same as Saray, the Warrior of the Sun, which means that she could still wrestle as regular schoolgirl Saray.
Okay. The next segment I was absolutely abhorred. Abhorred? I thought was disgusting.
You were a whore at?
So watching Indy Hartwell and Persia the makeout rape scene was...
I wouldn't say that. Okay. I wouldn't say that, but the match was fucking terrible. The match was awful.
And the segment after was...
And then the only good part about this segment was Sailor Moon is just a regular girl before she transformed. Yeah. Yes, Sailor Moon is just a regular girl before she transforms.
So Saray.
But you're telling me that regular girl Saray
doesn't know how to wrestle.
But she does, because she did the drop kick.
But remember, she was a loser wrestler. That's why she had to get the amulet from
her
grandmother.
She wasn't losing, though. She was winning up until they decided to change booking.
and she became a loser wrestler.
But she lost to like Lash fucking LaRue or whatever her name was. Lash Legend. Lash LaRue was actually.
Right, so women ripped their.
The only good part about that was the fact that Dexter Loomis got pinned to the ground and was being made out with by Indy Hartwell, and he's like,
no selling it. Okay, well he sold it.
That was the best part of that. It was Dexter Loomis with the glove and everything on, just being like, "This is good stuff."
Dominic and Raul, yeah, no.
They had an okay little luchador match.
Right,
it was
so,
fine.
Before we get to the main event, I want to talk. This is the thing I really want to talk about.
Okay.
Let's talk about Tommaso. Tommaso comes out, and you're like, okay, you can see where this is going.
Yeah.
Tommaso is kind of a soft-spoken guy. They were, well, when he's in his talking voice, like he wasn't like he's not like hype up like Braun Breaker. He's just, mellow talking.
He's not excitable.
Okay. You have the crowd chanting all of these things.
Mm-hmm.
And there's long pauses of quiet when Tommaso's speaking to get his point across.
Uh-huh.
And all I could hear was that boxed arena noise. I had to I thought there was something on my TV. I had to turn it up. I'm like, oh my God, they are pumping fake crowd noise in right now on this particular segment, which I hadn't noticed anywhere else. And
I didn't notice that.
Drove me nuts because you hear the crowd chanting the things that he wanted them to, and then it was over. Yeah, it was so over. Anyway, so I thought, and listening to the Chris Jericho book and talking about how people a lot of the times the veteran will help the new guy help write the story. I feel like this is 100% was produced by Tommaso, and it's the only reason it worked.
So, Tony D, after Tommaso Ciampa cuts this wonderful, I'm saying goodbye, but I'm not saying goodbye. I don't know what my next step is. I don't have a match at Stand and Deliver because I didn't win the NXT Championship. Guess what happens?
He got a match!
He got a match. Why? Because Tony D kicked him in the balls and then made out with him. And he did the Godfather thing where he's like, what was it?
I knew it was you all along.
It was you all along, Tommaso!
I hated that part.
Fuck me. Fuck me. And it undercut everything Tommaso said. It undercut the crowd. It undercut everything. Because Tony D showed up and he's like, I respect you, Tommaso. I respect you.
I
want to fight you. I want to fight you with Stand and Deliver. So once again, two people who didn't have a match on the card now have a match on the card. Why? Because they just said they're on the fucking card. It's a theme for this week.
And then Dolph Ziggler and LA Knight.
Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying Tommaso's promo was not awesome. I'm saying they undercut his entire promo by having this fucking Tony D thing come out and the continual play out of the storyline. People can't have matches on the cards, just get matches on the card because they said so.
Well, there's no general manager.
Which proves, as Alvarez has said, and we commented on for weeks now, Seth Rollins is just a fucking moron because he can't just come out and go, I'm on WrestleMania.
And the last thing that we'll talk about before we talk about the main event was the ongoing storyline of who jumped who.
Oh my God, yes. The Krieg brothers apparently accused everyone in the back of jumping them, and people either said that they did or at least implied that they did, and then fucking nothing. It went nowhere.
Oh, and Gunther talked to somebody.
And then Gunther talked to LA Knight.
Oh, LA Knight.
Because Gunther came up and said, hey, LA Knight, basically, Gunther said what everybody else said, be like, you talk a lot and you talked yourself into a match. You didn't earn your right into this match. But, he's like, I can respect the fact that you use the tools that you have available to you to get yourself in this match. And if you win, I'm your next opponent, basically. Yes, Walter said everything correctly.
Gunther.
No. No.
And then what happened in the main event?
LA Knight got fucked.
All right, there we go.
That's what happened in the main event. LA Knight had a great match with Dolph Ziggler except for one spot. One spot. And that's because both of them fucked up and froze at the exact same time. which was the spot where they were beside the ring ropes, and they both kind of like went towards each other
Yeah.
to like lock up,
Yeah, it
but
was
neither one of them knew what they were doing because they'd gotten lost for a
It
second.
looked awkward.
But they got out of it.
Us-
Dolph Ziggler, I think, was there just to see if Braun Breaker, Tommaso Ciampa, and LA Knight are worth pulling up to the main roster. And I think LA Knight and them are worth it. I think they'll be gone here over the next couple months.
So the site that I always get my information from,
Yeah.
that gives these nice little formats with the times and stuff like that, you'll notice that SmackDown is not like that because they still haven't updated SmackDown's freaking show.
Okay. So let's...
So Roman Reigns is now scared.
I'm sorry. Much like Raw,
This show.
these matches were terrible. I fell asleep through part of this show last night when I was trying to watch it because it wasn't very good. Roman Reigns' character was completely fucking destroyed in 15 minutes.
He is now scared of Braun.
In 15 minutes, they destroyed almost 2 years worth of work of Roman Reigns.
Because he's scared now.
Because he's scared.
And then we got to watch.
Legitimately scared of Brock. Because Roman comes out, hey, I'm here this week. Brock's not here. I'm ready to go. Where's Brock? Brock's supposed to be here. I came for Brock.
And then Paul's like, oh,
Pulls out the cell phone, as you have got, and he goes, my tribal chief. It appears that Brock Lesnar's plane has hit bad weather leaving Saskatchewan, and he will not be here tonight. So Roman, with his veneers, all smiles and ha ha ha, and everybody boos. And I love his line that says, "Hey, I get it." They're like, "Boo!" They're like, "Don't boo me though. I fulfilled my contractual obligation to be here tonight. I was here." Great stuff. And then while he's doing
Tribal Chief, stop interrupting me.
I just got to update. Brock Lesnar's plane has landed. He did not have bad weather leaving, and he'll be here. Gulp tonight. Paul Heyman knew. He clearly knew that they have fucked up his storyline. Because he oversold this like Shawn Michaels and Hogan at SummerSlam. He oversold this like a villain in a fucking comic book movie.
Like a 1966 Batman
comic
book movie.
Yes, absolutely. I was waiting for Bang Pow Thrust to come across the screen, right? And Roman goes, "Time to leave! He's going to be here tonight in this wide open arena that I have an entire 360 panorama around. What are we going to do? We're going to run to the back!" Which they proceeded to do. And they ran to the back. Now, keep in mind, this broadcast on the show, but did not take place according live on the show because they had earlier or moments ago on the screen as they were doing stuff. Because what happened?
Grand Theft Auto happened.
Destruction of private property, destruction of fucking stealing property because he stole the fucking forklift, attempted fucking murder. Your babyface should not attempt to murder people.
With a what?
With a fucking gigantic forklift that they use at the baseball stadiums to lift the numbers up to the damn fucking scoreboard and shit, right?
Yes, it was.
What happened? Brock Lesnar is in a forklift and a cowboy hat having the most hilarious of times. And he gets to drive this forklift. Keep in mind, remember our multi-camera angle shots from NXT. Apparently, they had the same director people show up for this show. Because we had about 18 different fucking camera angles of the spikes, because I don't know what to call them, the forks. There we go. The forks of the lift drive through the driver's side and passenger side window. Roman Reigns is in the back seat, passenger side, and the two dumb fucks are in the front seats, right? And he drives through the windows. And then the camera guys are shooting after the fact of the boys back in the car. Because all of the glass has been completely cleaned out. Okay? And the boys are back in the car. And fucking Jimmy Uso is laughing his ass off at how stupid this is. He was corpsing so hard on the camera because he's going. I'm trying to see. He goes. Because he's like, this is dumb. And Roman's like, ugh, this is dumb. Because apparently they needed to redo the Rock and Hogan tractor-trailer murder incident. But this time, the babyface had to be the one to try and murder the heels. Brock then got to pick the car up and flip it around and shove it around the back floor of the arena. Now, also, Brock Lesnar's stupid. Why is Brock Lesnar stupid? Because apparently, the Bloodline get out of the car.
But you never really see how it's possible when
we never see how...
Because the doors are... I guess you could go out the other doors.
Well, they went out the other doors. Is the only thing that makes sense. Was somehow between the transition of Brock cackling like a madman and all of this happening, and the Bloodline, corpsing on television, decide to get out of the car and somehow go around the car, past Brock Lesnar, and up to a Chevy Silverado that's literally parked 7 feet
running
beside Brock Lesnar.
Running.
And while Brock Lesnar's having fun fucking forklifting this truck over, he goes, oh shit! And gets out of the forklift and takes off running to the truck. That's literally like in his peripheral eye line is the truck, okay? And he runs over to the truck and they speed off and Brock almost dies because the idea is he is supposed to rip the passenger door off of the truck, right? Which he does. Except for what really happened is Brock had the door open because he was going to beat up on one of the Usos as whoever was driving the car took off. Roman, I think, didn't give a fuck and just stepped on the gas, right? Because I guess he wanted to make it look real. Why of all of this you would want to make the speedy getaway look real, I don't understand, because that's the most dangerous spot that they're in, because you're literally driving a truck right beside Brock Lesnar's face. Which, what happened? Well, the door that Brock was supposed to grab onto and have them drive off and have it pop off with just hits Brock and falls off. And I thought, thank God Brock Lesnar didn't roll up underneath those fucking tires when that door smacked him and knocked him off balance.
Yep.
Brock then proceeds to carry the door back into the arena and cuts a promo.
A little later on, yeah.
Like, they fucking killed Roman Reigns' character. They made Brock Lesnar a murderer, which, okay, whatever.
Well, that's standard for the faces.
All of the props were terrible. All of the camera cuts were terrible. All of the facial expressions were terrible. All they had to do was this is the problem with the E. And it's been the problem forever. They can't help themselves when they have something good. They have to fucking jazz it up with trash.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
I agree.
All they had to do was Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns don't like each other, and they're going to have a fucking fight at WrestleMania to see who's the best title holder.
Yep.
Great. Now we have escalated to prop murder.
So next on the card, I'm going to be so happy when WrestleMania is over because I'm hoping the Happy Talk Drew McIntyre feud will end. But much like, what's the feud that never ends that you can't stand?
All of them.
Yeah.
All of them.
So I want that to be over.
Yeah, this is terrible. This is dead in the water. Nobody cares. Hey, Viking Raiders, who were just challenging for your SmackDown Tag Team Championships, guess what? You're not doing anymore.
Then the surprise.
I don't see how the Viking Raiders and Drew were not put together earlier, because Vince just also automatically assumes that if you're foreign, you're all in some like fucking alliance with each other. Because have you ever noticed all of the foreign people make an alliance somehow?
Well, yeah, always.
So the Viking Raiders, who are Viking whatever, and I believe half of them are, I believe one of them is, they're both American, aren't they?
Yes.
But they're presented as Vikings.
Yes.
Even though they're...
Because they were the War Raiders.
I don't give a fuck what they were. I'm saying
War Machine.
They're Well, yes, but what I'm saying is that they're presented as Vikings.
Yes.
So the Vikings and the Celtic warrior have to have a thing together because they aesthetically please.
The Celtic warrior is Sheamus.
Well, sorry, Drew's the Scottish warrior. Fuck it, whatever his nationality is, right? They go together.
So
yeah,
Sharky takes a Claymore. Then the surprise of the night.
Well, you skipped the first match, by the way, where Rick motherfucking Boogs body pressed a motherfucker 35 times over his head and looked amazing.
Yes, Rick Boogs.
Rick Boogs is clearly... They have gone the way of, fuck Shinsuke. We're going to push Rick Boogs now.
He did curl Angel Garza.
He curled a man. By the way, the only reason I wanted to jump back to this is to remind people that Los Lotharios was in your main event 3 weeks ago. And now they are jerking the curtain. So much for them.
So do you like the Live for Brutality name?
I thought the name was fine.
This was the best match of...
I was about to say this. This was the best fucking match on the show. And what happened, Joseph? What happened at the end? What happened?
A run-in.
Why? The best match on the show has a fucking run-in. Why does it have a run-in? Because Natty doesn't have a match on the card. Natty and Shayna Baszler, who has replaced Tamina because I assume Tamina has been devalued because her father's a murderer.
Because she's making out on Raw with...
Oh, yeah. But either way, Natty and Shayna Baszler run to the ring and fuck up a perfectly good match. And why do they do that? Because they don't have a match on the card. And what happens after the fact? Sonya Deville just gives them a match on the fucking card. So all you have to do to get a match on the card at WrestleMania is 1, challenge anyone. 2, perform a run-in on anyone. More importantly, a champion. It seems to help. 3, just say you'll be there. Seth Rollins cannot do any of these things, which proves he's a fucking moron.
So Liv's getting much better matches than Ruby Soho is in AEW. I was like, please no, 8-woman tag. It's worse.
Kofi Kingston fought Ridge Holland. They're using Big E's broken neck as a legit storyline. I did not know how this would play out. I thought if they were anything, I thought because it's wrestling that it would be part of the angle. I thought because it's the E that it wouldn't. And I feel that they made the right choice by allowing the injury to be part of the angle, but I'm also feeling kind of disgusted that they used the injury as an angle to get this over.
But here's the weird part. It's not weird when you know anything about WWE at this point, but the reason this match happened, and I'm not sure if you caught it on commentary because you were zoning out or just livid from what happened 5 minutes earlier.
Because I did not get to live for brutality because they got fucked out of stuff and put into a stupid match.
I'm assuming that when Sonya Deville made the match, you were fuming around the house angry, kicking puppies.
Actually, I was laying on the couch with my son and his stuffed animals, and he was like this little battery of heater, and I was just like...
Okay, so it was stated by the commentary team that the reason this match happened is because Ridge Holland expressively apologized, and Kofi didn't want to hear nothing about it. Ridge Holland said he's very, very sorry.
So your evil foreign baby, your evil foreign heel apologized to the babyface for breaking a guy's neck legitimately, and the babyface doesn't want to hear it.
Yes! I'm just surprised Xavier Woods didn't crawl in this one yet.
Well, that's because they don't know what they're doing for WrestleMania.
Well, because it was supposed to be the 3 of the New Day versus the 3, and instead we get to watch Pete Dunne get held back by an 85-pound referee. I'm sorry, Bucky.
You know,
Petey, Buster. What's his name?
We briefly touched on this last week, but
Butch. His name's Butch.
Pete Dunne. I have to ask this follow-up question, okay? Because Walter
Gunter
having his name changed. As I said, the promo that they cut was the promo that I wrote basically verbatim of why it would happen.
Absolutely. You did.
In a way, in a way,
You called it.
makes a little bit of sense. Of a guy is saying, you know what? I have been defined as one thing. I am choosing now to define my actions as something new.
Yes.
Pete Dunne is butch because fucking Sheamus said so.
Yep.
There's no reason that he is that. Now,
At least they're smart enough to not put Pete Dunne on a mic.
he can talk.
Not with this role.
No.
What's he going to say that's
Like,
going to make people go?
We didn't really have a chance to go over this in detail last week because of what happened in the rest of the match involving him, but why is Pete Dunne the Bruiserweight, who is your second longest reigning NXT champion and one of the longest reigning champions of the modern era?
NXT UK and
Yes, of NXT UK and everything else, but what I do not understand is this, Joseph. They have merchandise that says Pete Dunne, that says Bruiserweight, and things like that on it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they were going to change Gunther's name to Gunther Stark, the Nazi, because they wanted to copyright a Nazi name.
I remember.
And as far as I can tell, that we looked up, you were unable to individually copyright a singleized name, right?
Right.
For entertainment purposes. Why is he not Butch Stark? Or Butch Reed? Or Butch Dunne? Or Butch Butchie? Or something. He's just Butch. What is this obsession with singleized names now that is completely fucking up all of the entire history of everything that this guy did in your own motherfucking company?
And then my final note was, oh look, the punter is still the best person on the show.
Yep. Because the whole point of that shit was that Pat McAfee had to apologize to Austin Theory, and he apologized to Austin Theory by calling him a bitch. This was great, except for the fact that, yeah, pretty much the ending of your main event show did not feature the head of the table, did not feature the Beast Brock Lesnar, did not feature anybody but the announcer. The ex-punter announcer was your go-home. The WWE sucked eggs this week. So hard. It was so bad.
Let's talk about AEW. Wow, I did not think we would talk an hour on WWE.
Well, we got lost on NXT because we are both very passionate at the absolute destruction and shit pile that is raining down on top of NXT right now.
It used to be so good. So I loved when thank you GR, Man in the Mask. You've done nothing for me. That was the best quote of the night.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry. So William Regal goes to the commentary table to call the first match. He says to Tony Schiavone, I said everything I said to you next week. JR, I haven't got to tell you this, man. It's just like Tony Schiavone. Thank you for everything you've done. Man in the Mask, you've done nothing for me. Like, I'm not even going to say your name. Man in the Mask, you've done nothing.
Yes, I really appreciated that William Regal took a gigantic shit on Excalibur, because if there's anyone who deserves to be bathed in shit, it's Excalibur.
All right, so your first match was...
I like Pete Dunne, man. We got to go back and watch some earlier Pete Dunne things before he bathed himself in suntan lotion and oil.
Pete Dunne, Tyler Bate.
Yeah, Pete Dunne.
Their trilogy.
Bate. Yeah, before he looked like a guy who smells like rat piss. Yes,
we'll have. He just wore a coat that looked like it smelled like cat piss.
Yes.
All right, Adam. So you have the not undisputed versus...
You have the Undisputed Era versus Jungle Express with Adam Page. This was a fucking cool match that didn't need to happen.
Yep.
It did not need to happen. The match was great. The spots were great. Stop letting Adam Page do things. He's going to get hurt.
Yes.
The fucking suicide senton tope thing that he did off of the middle to top rope out to the outside when they had their big spot fest on it was super cool looking, but he landed awkward as fuck on his knee.
And Luchasaurus continues to impress.
This, like I said, this was a great match that didn't need to happen.
The best part, one of the best parts that happened all night, I think. The second best part that happened all night.
Yeah.
This Brian Danielson, John Moxley versus Chuck Taylor and Wheeler Yuta. I wrote, they got the crowd to chant Yuta. Holy shit.
Again, this was another good match that really didn't need to have to happen.
But it's this is exploring that storyline of come to us and we will show you the way. Come to us if you want to learn how to, because Wheeler Yuta in the best friends mix, which is getting too big, has always been a third, fourth wheel that never really made sense. That was just kind of like, why?
Here is the problem that I have with that, okay? And I want you to follow me with this on the show, okay?
All right.
I'm starting to have horrible flashbacks of TNA or WWF pre-Attitude Era kickoff 1996.
Okay, you're going to have to explain it.
Everybody has a fucking faction. And everybody's in a faction. And everybody's trying to vie for faction control for things. Because we have Undisputed Era and then the good guys, right? That's a faction.
Best friends.
Well, no, I'm saying the
Oh.
first match is literally a faction versus
A faction.
a faction.
Okay.
The next match is an interesting team kind of slowly trying to become a faction
Right.
versus
A faction.
a faction. And then the next match we have
A
a
person,
person from a faction versus a person who was in a faction.
Okay.
Then the next match we have
A tag team.
basically who used to be in a faction and are making a faction probably versus a team that's going to be a faction.
Yeah.
And then the last match, okay, all right, we'll talk about the last one.
So, and then you look at the second.
Look at the second one. Faction. Probably not the women, yeah. Faction versus faction. Keith Lee, who is going to be part of the aforementioned faction that we just talked about.
And then
I'm starting to have flashbacks to the gang rivalry storyline of WWF.
Right. So what I have read is there was a reason for this.
Because they have 100+ people working for the company and nobody has TV time. So the easiest way to get somebody TV time is to give 3 or 4 guys who you're giving TV time stuff to, surround them with the 4 or 5 guys that aren't getting TV time doing stuff, and then you give them a spot where everybody gets to show up on TV, so everybody gets to be seen on TV regardless of if you're actually doing anything.
Right, and it preserves that you still see them, but you don't have to have them always wrestling. So that's one.
NWO
2.0. No, because the difference is we have multiple factions, multiple little gangs.
NWO, LWO, BWO,
Right, but they were all
WCW originals,
No, so
Harlem Heat.
That is the Bullet Club now, because you have the Bullet Club, Japan,
so
the Bullet.
You're just legitimizing almost.
No, because not all of these people are the same people. It's kind of also like New Japan. You have Chaos. You have all the different dojos, if you will. The difference is, so yes, I see what you're saying, but at the same time, you're right. It is a great way to have multiple people on TV, and then you can mix up the. If you have 5 people and you have 5 people, your team, here's my 5 people, here's your 5 people, and like, okay, now this one's fighting this one, and now this one's fighting this one, and now we're in a tag team. It doesn't feel stale of the same tag team fighting each other, and then a singles match, and then a cross singles match, and then a tag team again, and then, so it's different. So that's one. It's a way to have many people highlight in different times. 2, there has been the discussion for over a year now of a trios tag team title. And apparently when Kenny gets better, that's going to be enacted.
Apparently Kenny will not be getting better anytime soon.
So they want to have a trios belt. So that's another reason to have all these little factions. So you have not just like the women's WWE women's problem is you only have 2. You have no legitimate female tag teams right now.
Do they need one?
No, but okay. And then the third reason is it's kind of a FU to Vince because Vince hated tag teams. He hated paying people the same
Well,
amount.
if that's that petty,
I think
then
that's
that's dumb.
that's
No.
dumb. All right, so
Okay, moving on.
Scorpio Sky defeated Wardlow because MJF came back. Made sense. Didn't like it. Made sense.
Fine for the story. Again, as you said, it made sense for the story. Didn't like the fact that Wardlow, who is now your soon-to-be, babyface star on the rise, can't beat Scorpio Sky.
And it's a good way to not give him the belt right away.
Yeah.
To continue the feud with
Yeah.
Max. Kind of saw it coming.
God.
I don't.
Matt and Jeff Hardy proceeded to embarrass them fucking selves on TV because Matt and Jeff Hardy. There for a moment when I was watching Jeff Hardy, and I was like, man, it's like Jeff Hardy's looking a lot better nowadays. Jeff Hardy's doing all right.
And there it goes.
And there it goes. Because Jeff Hardy and Matt Hardy looked like that they were moving at about 5% capacity speed. And they wrestled two fucking guys who were going 100 miles a minute, and they did not know what to do.
Hey, remember when Edge first came back? And I was like, yeah, he's too slow.
As you get older, your reaction time fades. This is just a fact of reality. And the Hardy Boys were moving so slow. And I hated it happened in the match, but I didn't absorb it organically. I guess what I'm saying is I absorbed it organically. I didn't absorb it as a segment until on the Facebook feed, AEW's page showed me the classic Hardy Boy clip where they did the drop down and the pop up and the kick to the stomach and the throw to the side and the poetry in motion and blah 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 and all that stuff. And then that's when I watched it and I was like, God, they're so slow. And they literally have no offense other than bad punches, bad kicks, and Jeff doing something stupid.
Matt was on his hands and knees for like 20 seconds while Mark sold the corner till Jeff got there.
He got kicked in the stomach once and thrown into the ring apron and was hanging there and had to act like he had been shot in the face so that way Jeff Hardy could go back, get in position, and
yes,
catch his breath to go do the fucking poetry in motion move.
So Jeff and Matt probably have some good matches left in them, but don't go with the 18, 19-year-old, 20-year-olds that can go 100 miles an hour, like you said.
Jeff and Matt Hardy, man.
If they would have had a match with like FTR, that match could have been slower, more methodical.
This looked terrible, and they wasted Jeff Hardy by having him come back and immediately. Also,
What you've said.
Jeff Hardy still looks like Jeff Hardy, okay?
Yep.
Matt Hardy does not look like Matt Hardy.
Matt Hardy almost looked like Matt Hardy 1.0.
Matt Hardy looked like he ate Matt Hardy.
Okay.
Version 2.0, okay? Matt Hardy did not look good at all in the bell-bottom Jinko pants with the mesh t-shirt and the wrist straps on and the
hair
flashback to 1998.
Dyed his
Okay?
hair dark again.
It did not do him
No, he
any
looked like
favors.
Matt Hardy that was dating Lita.
Yeah. And, I mean, I assume they're going to do Broken Hardy at some point, right?
All right, and then we had our main event.
I felt so bad for this main event.
Okay.
I felt so bad because, one,
I have some thoughts, but I want to hear yours.
This should have happened at the pay-per-view.
Okay.
Because, as I said, I hated the fact that Thunder Rosa lost the pay-per-view just so that way she could still be the #1 contender to have her title change on Dynamite, okay? Because we all knew that that was what was going to happen, right?
Mm-hmm.
The other thing with that is that they did not look very good in this match at times.
Mm-hmm.
They looked really bad. In my opinion, because they have done so much blading and blood, the blood was highly devalued in this match.
I agree with that wholeheartedly.
And they had to put in the dumb tax.
I 100% agree with that too.
And I think when you had to add all of those components into it, it really took away from the fact that Thunder Rosa won.
Okay, so some quick things. So during the Chris Jericho, why do the heels have points? So now I freaking key on that now. Yeah. Oh, look, the heels have points. So I wrote, why is Lambert wearing a belt? And apparently that got answered on Rampage.
How did you not know that?
Because he's the co-champion. I didn't listen to that.
Well, yeah, the reason it is because they had the 2 team, and Scorpio said that he was going to give Dan Lambert one of the belts, that he would only be coming to the ring with the 1 belt.
Knew that MJF was coming. So the 1990s called in that ear nose ring combination that the Buck was wearing. That needs to go. All right, so I wrote this note in the middle of the match, and do you think the Hardys will ever be in the WWE Hall of Fame? And if that's something you want to take a long-term answer for, we could talk about it another time. But that's kind of, it was a thought I had.
Sure. I'm going to say sure.
Okay.
If they don't die in the next little... They're only in their 40s, right?
Yeah. And like, oh, look, Jeff took his shirt off. They're definitely going to win. So where does the Sting, Darby, and Hardys thing go? Because Sting kept looking at stink-eyeing Darby when he was shaking Jeff's hand. Like,
probably because Sting's like, you do realize that this is the motherfucker that was so fucked up at the Victory Road pay-per-view 12 years ago that he fell down and I had to hold him down and pin him and ruined the pay-per-view and almost killed a company. Maybe that might be why. He sees Jeff as a negative. Sting's a good guy. He probably actually likes Jeff.
I've never seen an all-woman mariachi band. That was a comment from Dad. Which was a nice intro.
Yeah.
So, I wrote, Thunder Rosa's got to win, right? Question mark. All right. So, I'm going to jump on your production page.
Okay.
We saw a three quarters of a Hell in a Cell match.
Yeah.
Because they had to have room for the cameramen outside to be in the cage but not in the ring.
Yeah.
Which they never do in cage matches on other promotions. But they had to make sure that the back end opposite of the hard cam was flush so we could have the jumping ins and rushing ins. And I was like, okay, I wonder if they're going to pretend that little alleyway doesn't exist on three quarters of the ring, and then no, they went right to it. So I was like, I've never seen a cage match like that. I'm not sure how I felt about it.
Well, I think you've never seen a Hell in a Cell?
Okay. Yes, I've seen a Hell in a Cell, but that was a cage match, not a Hell in a Cell. And even in the Hell in a Cell, they don't make one of the four sides flush against the ring. Yes,
I agree. The setup for the shots were pretty bad. And the reason for that is, I mean, I guess I have to ask the question of what's better for the viewing. One, okay. Cage matches, have you ever seen a cage match live?
Mm-hmm.
They're fucking terrible to watch live, okay? Especially, the reason that the WWE did the big blue cage back in the day for the WWF was they thought that you could see it, but you can't really even see with the big blue cage, okay? You can't see the big red cage either that fucking TNA did with their stupid Thunderdome Bowl thing, right? Because they're just so big and in the way. The mesh cages are slightly better, but they're not.
And then you had TNA who used to cut the holes in it.
Yes, and TNA had the big holes cut in it that eventually, I think at one point, somebody, after like years of people asking the question of why don't they just crawl through the cage?
Somebody did.
Somebody actually did it.
Yeah.
You know, but I guess that's the question is they don't have the production that WWE has to have the static cams set up on top of the turnbuckles and stuff to film everything, so they had to put people in there, but...
I mean, the match looked great. I'd rather do that than like the Pujami match where you couldn't see anything.
Yeah.
I guess at one point in time, Britt didn't cut deep enough because she wasn't getting the blood she wanted. Why did Britt have to be the one asking for a ref when the ref got bumped out? That was the part.
By the way,
that was the part I didn't like.
I have to ask this question. Why is that ref Superman?
Which one?
The one who got fucking super kicked in the face by Dr. Britt Baker and proceeded to sell it like he'd just gotten some shit waved underneath his nose.
Well, then he fell out.
Yeah, he fell out and died more from falling out of the ring and bumping into the cage than he did from Britt Baker super kicking him in the fucking face. Because Britt Baker legitimately You can see the clip online, but essentially Thunder Rosa goes down, and Britt Baker goes to super kick, and Thunder Rosa dips under, and she kicks the ref in the face, and the ref goes like this and spins around and lands on the middle rope, and it's just like, ah, and then as he's on the middle rope, not dead, but on the middle rope, just going, ow, my face, my nose, it hurts. They then bump into him, which causes him to bump out of the ring and land, and then he's dead.
Yes.
So a super kick does nothing.
But falling out of the ring does.
But falling out of the ring does.
JR says what I was thinking, why tax?
Yeah.
I wrote, this was not as good as their last match, but I'm glad.
And didn't we say that about their last match, that it wasn't as good as their last match?
So, I thought this was going to be interesting. So, immediately back to long-term storytelling.
Okay.
I'm predicting now that this week, Britt Baker blames this loss on Aubrey.
Probably.
Because she has had a problem with Aubrey since day one.
Yeah.
Long-term storytelling. Because Aubrey has it in for her.
Yeah.
I don't think they're going to take it the Sami Zayn type of conspiracy, hopefully. God, please. But I think it's... I'm glad that it was... As soon as I saw Aubrey's face, I'm like, oh, she's good. Absolutely. And when she loses, that's why she's going to be losing. So I think it's a good way to keep the storyline.
Maybe.
So Rampage. How many years... Okay. How many years do you think Darby has left in him if he keeps going the way he's going?
I think Darby is one of those people that just like...
Do you think he doesn't feel pain? Do you think he's got that condition where he just doesn't feel pain?
I think Darby is one of those people that's just able to land in a way that actually doesn't hurt him but looks like he's dying.
If the Butcher would not have caught him, the Butcher did not take any of that force. He stopped him from landing in the fourth row.
Yeah.
When he jumped out of that ring.
Well, he landed right in type of the... I think... Like I said, that's the thing that we love Darby for, is every time... That's what makes Darby believable as a guy who's 5'10" and 165 pounds, okay?
Yeah.
Because every time Darby does something, it looks like he does it with the intent to kill someone.
Or himself.
No, he doesn't care if he kills himself doing it.
Good point.
But he is a human fucking torpedo, is what he's trying to do.
Yes, absolutely.
And that was awesome. And I actually think Darby is trained enough and knows how to do things to where he can land and not hurt himself as bad as it looks. I think, though, that over time will wear him down.
Darby Allin... How old do you think Darby Allin is?
Darby's young. Darby's like 30-something, right?
29 years old.
Yeah.
And he's married to Gigi Dolan.
I thought they got divorced.
Oh, they got divorced in 20, you're right.
Yeah.
I realized he was married to Gigi Dolan.
Uh-huh.
Anyway.
Why wouldn't you be?
I just don't... I think that at the current rate that Darby Allin's doing, he's only got like 5 more years left.
Nah, Darby will be around. I think the problem with that is that if AEW doesn't stick around, he won't be anywhere.
Oh, he is not. I'm getting tired of hearing about the square ring posts. I get it.
Yeah. Again, Red Velvet, Layla Hirsch was kind of...
It was better than I thought it would be.
I don't understand why Layla Hirsch beat Chris Statlander to then turn around and lose to Red Velvet.
Dad referred to Bear Bronson and Fuego del Sol as Bear Country and the Cub. Bear Country and the Cub. Why is Del Fio? Why?
Because they needed a body. They needed a body that would fit with... Actually, I don't know why. One, how fucking cool is Buddy Matthews looking?
He looks amazing.
He looks great, doesn't he? The other thing I'll say about this was the promo that came out of it that featured Penta and What's-His-Nuts.
Who looks like he's part of the Spanish Inquisition now. I hate that look.
Nobody expects the Spanish Inquisition.
Apparently.
He looks like a fucking guy cosplaying in...
Spanish Inquisition!
He looks like a fucking guy cosplaying a vampire from... like Blade or something, hanging out in the park that you would make fun of from like the 90s movies, right? And he was hamming it up so bad, he was like, the death triangle is inevitable. He was terrible.
Very, very much.
I hate it because it just makes... The thing is, Malachi Black is very theatrical in how he talks, right?
Yes.
And he definitely is like... But the thing that works is when he speaks in a manner that's calm, collected, and direct. So when he says dumb things like, you know, the shadows of the force behind the House of Black have called to me, you go, holy shit, this dude's fucking cool. When somebody on the other team is going, and the blood that you have shed, Malachi Black,
So, and if your
makes you go, fuck that guy.
unless your name's Danhausen.
But Danhausen, I'll tell you why Danhausen works. It's because Danhausen isn't involved in this.
Right, I know. I'm just...
Danhausen works because, again though, everything he does is rooted in reality. This guy is not.
But to answer your question, we rewinded Buddy Matthews' new finishing move 3 times.
So good. So good.
So beautiful, so smooth. And
then the thing that happened at the end.
So, I got to, because, you know, we were interrupted with a hockey game.
Yeah.
So I said, set this to record an extra hour because of the basketball game.
Yeah.
So I was like, I don't want to miss it. I'm going to set it for an extra hour. Surely the basketball game won't go over an hour of when it should go.
Yeah.
So I got good old... Well, that's enough done talking. And now on to the main event. And then recording over. So I didn't get to see the match at all. But I did like the interaction between Max Caster and Keith Lee. And
so
are you on board with the way Keith Lee talks or not?
No.
See, I like it.
I don't.
Okay.
You know,
And I like that Max Caster called him out on it.
The thing about it is I don't know. I'm stuck in a weird position of it makes him different.
Right.
And it makes him stand out. But I don't think it makes him stand out in a good way. I don't know. I don't know. I'm very... I go back and forth.
Did you like it when he was doing it in NXT?
No. Fucking hated it when he did it in NXT.
Okay.
I really did not. And it's just... But at the same time, it's kind of like a backseat problem that I have of... Anybody who's like an indie wrestler wants to come in and just be the ultimate badass and kick the shit out of everybody and fucking smack Roman Reigns down and all of a sudden become the WWE World Heavyweight Champion in a day, right? They want to be booked as a legitimate badass, unless you're a comedy act and you're just a comedy act. Keith Lee is a badass, but he doesn't speak like a badass. He speaks like... I don't know how to describe it. He speaks like a Harvard professor.
Right.
But I feel that makes him less interesting. It makes him different but less interesting, if that makes sense.
Okay.
Like, I don't know why, but I'm waiting for him to just... I'm waiting for him to just kind of black it up a little bit, you know? Which is probably what's going to happen.
Okay.
I mean, he's from fucking Wichita Falls, Texas, okay? You know, I'm waiting for him to throw a little bit of slang into how he talks, you know, and he doesn't. Now maybe that's him, because we've seen his WWE documentaries where he speaks very articulately. But I think the problem is that when he speaks articulately in his personal life, it comes across as very direct and earnest, where I feel that the pauses and like the inflections where he like looks up in the air and then does his thing. I think that's the distraction of the voice that I have. I don't mind that he speaks very clearly and with clear pauses in his sentences and everything. I just think the extra theatric of how he talks when he's like... See, Joseph, you know, the superficialist belief that you have that you can go into the ring with Keith Lee is... unavoidable. That's the problem.
I got it.
Yeah.
So tell me about the match.
The match was alright. I don't have much to say on the match. Keith Lee fucking won. At least he's winning. At least he's winning. Granted, he's winning against the people that he should win against,
Right.
which means he shouldn't necessarily be always winning against those people because he should just have a destruction match and just be done
Well,
with
it's
it.
when we get to Powerhouse Hobbs.
But that's the thing that I'm getting at. So, with the match, afterwards, they come out, they lay the beat down on Keith Lee. Powerhouse Hobbs, thank you, Stark. I was going to say Ricky Strickland for some reason. They all lay the beat down on him.
No, that's Swerve.
And then Swerve comes out, right? And he runs down as Keith Lee's laying there. Now, I want to pause this for a minute, and I want you to go through my sequence, okay? Because I need you to understand the problem that I had. Swerve runs out, and he's got a chair. And we all know that the canned ham of Chris Jericho's on the mic, right? And he goes... I'll try and do my best, Chris Jericho.
Oh, you're gonna really bring me there.
I don't know if I can get my voice that high pitched caught in my throat.
Bring me there.
But he's like, Strickland comes out, and he's gonna even the odds, and he's got a chair, the ultimate equalizer. And what does Swerve do?
He hits.
Nope. Everybody slides out of the ring. As Jericho is saying, he's come out with the ultimate equalizer, the chair, right? And Swerve proceeds to baseball bat, throw the chair at Hobbs as he's getting out of the ring, right? So what happens is the chair hits the middle rope, I think, or the bottom rope, and flaps and falls out of the ring, right? And Swerve continues to do his, like, stare down thing, right? And immediately in my head I went, there's 3 of you! He is now down to 1! And the ultimate equalizer of the chair has now been taken out of the equation. Get back in the ring and fuck him up.
Yep.
Nope. Swerve scared off all 3 people with no chair. And he crouched down in the middle of the ring and was doing his lick lip thing and stuff like that. And the people are going, Swerve coming to the defense of Keith Lee. What does this mean? And I was like, what does this mean? This is interesting. However, though, I was completely erased out of the interesting factor of the fact that he came down with a chair, then got rid of the chair, and no one beat him up. There were 3 of them. Killed the whole fucking moment when he threw that chair, and it just bounced right out of the ring.
Okay.
I don't know if he was supposed to throw it and it hit and come back and he would pick it up or what because he didn't do the thing where he like swung it and hit the rope and it bounced back. He did the fucking full-on Sammy Guevara, I'm just going to chuck this thing at you, right? And he did, and it just went right out of the ring. All 3 guys. Keep in mind, I want to say the person he threw it at was Hobbs. Hobbs could have just picked the chair up. Or gone to ringside and got a chair. Any of those out, but Swerve scared off all 3 guys to protect Keith Lee. Cool looking, but killed in the moment when you really think about it.
Got it. All right.
Final thoughts.
We had a great show.
Yeah.
We had some discussion on this one.
I don't have any final thoughts other than the fact of Seth Rollins is a fucking moron.
All right.
And AEW had a bunch of matches that were super cool that really didn't need to exist.
So, next week, we are going to not be in the Powerbomb Studios. We will be broadcasting from the Outlaw Network's home with Kevin.
I cannot wait to hear how much his guests hate us.
We're gonna do a simulcast.
They hated us last year.
We're gonna review all of Stand and Deliver and Wrestlemania as we understand it.
Are we?
That's what we're there
Fuck,
for,
dude. Because you're committing me to, like, we are not only are we committing to do the co-hosting show with Outlaw Radio Network with our good friend Kevin Chambers.
No, so this is
but we're also committing to watching 9 fucking hours of wrestling the day before.
No. You're misunderstanding.
Okay.
Let me back you up.
Okay.
We are doing a show before their show. We're doing a pre-show of the show. So we're going to be in our normal time slot.
Okay.
We can be there between 5:30 and 8, 5:30. We have to be done by 8. So
Okay.
whatever time we want to get there, we can start 5:30 to 8.
Okay.
And we are going to discuss predictions on the upcoming WrestleMania show.
Okay.
And Stand and Deliver. So we're going to discuss all of the matches that have been solidified, what we think is going to happen, how it's going to work out. And then we're going to leave, and they're going to do their political talk show. Or you can stay and do the political talk show with them if you want. I'm going to dip out and come home. And then the next weekend is WrestleMania. We will not have a show because we're not going to have a show.
Yeah.
For WrestleMania weekend and then we're gonna talk about WrestleMania, and if we have time to talk about anything else that happened in the 3 weeks, probably won't. Or WrestleMania will have been such a suckfest, we'll just go, hated every minute of it, but I don't think that you can do that.
They've pulled off worse with
less.
Yeah, thank you. I was gonna say better, but I was just like,
This also gives us time to
look. Realistically, the only reason people are going to watch WrestleMania this year is for Stone Cold Steve Austin. Oh, okay, that's weird. All right.
I know, weird. I know, it's weird.
We're just having a discussion.
Yeah.
I can't believe we have more views right now than we had earlier when we were talking about actual wrestling. That's why nobody gives a shit about wrestling, right? Our final thoughts was just us figuring out how Joey had scheduled the show.
I actually had a final thought.
What's your final thought?
I don't remember it. I don't remember my final thought. Is Santino Marella's daughter going to be a comedy act or a legit wrestler?
Thanks, everybody, for tuning in tonight at Powerbomb Weekly. On behalf of Joseph, my name is Michael Burdett. Please make sure to tune in and check us out where we will be coming at Outlaw Radio Network next week, where we will be discussing WrestleMania predictions with our good friend, the announcer guy, Kevin Chambers. If you haven't, please already click, subscribe, comment below on the video, and make sure, if you get a chance, to visit us and give us some money because we're broke and we're poor and Vince is not paying us yet, okay? Do you have anything else that you would like to add, or is that a good sign-off?
Do you think that Santino Marella's daughter will be a comedy act or a good wrestler? Apparently she has a jiu-jitsu background.
On behalf of Joseph Marcello, my name is Michael Burdett. Thank you for tuning in tonight on Powerbomb Weekly. Be sure to check us out next week where we will be on Outlaw Radio Network with our good friend, the announcer guy, Mr. Kevin Chambers. If you haven't already, please remember to click subscribe, and donate money to us because we're poor. And Vince isn't paying us yet for this wonderful content. However, though, he is stealing all of our ideas because I have noticed that when we come up with something good, he takes it and then turns it and makes it terrible. All of the people who report wrestling steal all of our content and then proceed to do their content the week after as if it is new content, and it gets way more views than ours does. So make sure to stick with the best, the original, and come check us out first here at Powerbomb Weekly every week, starting at 5 o'clock Pacific Time on the Facebook Live. Please make sure to check out our YouTube page where all of this content is uploaded in much better quality and form, where the bullshit is cut out in its largely entirety, and you just get a good straight shot of the show.
I love you, dude.
Have a good night.
Oh, man, oh, man, oh, man.